Frank Benzel Jr. This is one of the craziest golf records to ever exist. It's June 2024, Newport Country Club, Rhode Island. The U.S. Senior Open is underway. A 56-year-old club pro named Frank Benzel Jr. is grinding through his second round. He teaches lessons in New York during the summer, Florida in the winter. This is his first ever U.S. Senior Open. He had to qualify just to get here. Nobody's really paying attention to him. Then something happens on the fourth hole that makes everyone stop and stare. Par 3, 173 yards. Benzel pulls out a 6-iron, makes contact, and starts walking. He can't see where the ball landed. The flag is obscured from the tee, but he hears shouting, then screaming. The gallery near the green is going nuts. Hole in one. Benzel fishes the ball out and walks to the next tee feeling like the luckiest guy on the course. Now here's where it gets really insane. The fifth hole is also a par 3, 202 yards. Benzel pulls the same 6-iron. He swings, and this time watches the whole flight. The ball lands right of the flag, trickles toward the hole, and disappears into it. Back-to-back holes in one. Benzel later described it as an out-of-body experience, and it should be. What he just did had never happened before, not once. In 129 years of USGA championships, in over 1,001 tournaments, Frank Benzel Jr., a teaching pro nobody had heard of 10 minutes earlier, just made history. The odds of 2 aces in the same round? 67 million to 1. Back-to-back aces? Statisticians never bothered to calculate it. Why would they? It was never going to happen. So what would it take to beat this? 3 consecutive aces? Here's the problem. Holes in one only happen on par 3s. The short holes designed to reach the green in one shot. Par 4s are 300 to 450 yards. Even if you could reach the green from the tee, those greens are designed to receive soft approach shots, not rockets coming in at 150 miles per hour. The ball would fly right over, so you'd need a course with 3 consecutive par 3s. Those don't exist at the championship level. Designers spread them out for variety. So to break this record, we'd need a course redesigned, or someone to ace a par 3, then somehow ace a drivable 280-yard par 4, then ace another par 3. In other words, it's practically impossible. Personally, I thought this record was totally mind-blowing, until I heard another one we have on this list, which is also about holes in one, and it's actually even crazier. But before that, let's talk about Jack Nicklaus. Nicklaus, 18 major championships, 1962 to 1986. It's April 1986. Augusta National, the final round of the Masters. Jack Nicklaus is 46 years old. He hasn't won a major in 6 years. The newspapers that week literally wrote that he was gone, done, with clubs too rusty. One headline said he had no chance. Nicklaus saw it. He taped it to his refrigerator. Then he went out on Sunday and shot 30 on the back 9 to win by 1 stroke. At an age when most players are thinking about retirement, Nicklaus delivered one of the greatest performances in golf history. But it wasn't just about that one tournament. That was his 18th major championship. Nobody else has come close. Tiger Woods, the only player with a realistic shot at catching him, stalled at 15 majors. After his car accident and multiple surgeries, there's no realistic path to 16. The next closest active players, Rory McIlroy has 5, Brooks Koepka has 5. The gap is enormous. So what would it take to break this record? 19 majors? Let's do the math on Scottie Scheffler, the current world number 1. He's 29 years old with 4 majors under his belt. Already more than anyone else in this generation except Tiger. To reach 19 majors by age 46 like Jack Nicklaus, he would need to win 15 more majors over the next 17 years. That's still basically 1 major every year until his mid-40s. For context, Tiger Woods at his absolute peak from 1997 to 2008 won 14 majors in 11 years. Scheffler would need to sustain almost Tiger-level dominance. The problem? Today's fields are deeper than ever. Equipment has leveled the playing field. 20 guys show up to every major with a legitimate chance to win. The era of one player separating from the pack might be over, but we'll have to wait and see. If you are loving this video, please click the hype button on your mobile screen and help us to reach out to more golf fans. Done? Let's continue. Kyle Berkshire, 579-yard drive. 2023. It's October 2nd, 2023, Rochelle Ranch Golf Club, Wyoming. At an elevation of 6,700 feet, Kyle Berkshire is standing on a tee box with one goal: hit a golf ball farther than any human being has ever hit one. Berkshire is a 4-time world long drive champion. He's built for this. His swing generates clubhead speeds that PGA Tour pros can only dream of. But today, everything needs to be perfect. The altitude thins the air, reducing drag. There's a 17 to 22 miles per hour tailwind at his back. The fairway is firm and fast. The temperature is about 54 to 57 degrees. Not ideal, but workable. He steps up, he unloads, and launches a ball at 233 miles per hour. That's faster than a Formula One car at top speed. The ball carries 512 yards through the air before it even touches ground. That's the length of 5 football fields that the ball traveled through the air. Then it rolls another 67 yards on the turf. Final distance, 579.63 yards, the longest drive in golf history. Before that, the record was 551 yards, set by Mike Dobbin in 2007. That record stood for 16 years. Berkshire beat it by 29 yards. So what would it take to break Berkshire? Can someone hit 600 yards? Berkshire himself says yes. He's stated that on a warmer day, 85 degrees instead of the 54 he had, he could add another 25 yards. The math checks out. Warmer air is less dense, which means less drag. But 600 yards isn't just about weather. You'd need optimal altitude, a strong tailwind, firm fairways, a driver pushed to the absolute limits of legal specifications, and a swing speed north of 155 miles per hour. The real barrier, though, is the human body. Generating that kind of clubhead speed puts enormous stress on your wrists, forearms, and spine. Long drive competitors get injured constantly. To swing faster, someone would need to develop the physical capacity to withstand forces that are right at the edge of what bones and tendons can handle. But that's the whole point of records, isn't it? 600 yards is coming. It's just a matter of when. The four aces, Oak Hill 1989 US Open. Now we come to our fourth golf record, and this one truly blew my mind. Remember those odds of 67 million to 1 from Frank Bensel Jr.'s 2 holes in 1? We're about to make that look like a coin flip. So it's Friday morning, June 16th, 1989. The second round of the US Open just started at Oak Hill Country Club in New York. Steve DePerrior, a USGA volunteer, is standing on the 6th tee. It's a 167-yard par 3 with a cup-shaped green. Rain from the night before has left the conditions soft. The pin is tucked in the lower lobe. At 8:15 a.m., Doug Weaver, playing in the first group of the day, hits a 7-iron 15 feet past the flag. The ball checks, spins back, and disappears into the cup. DePerrior grabs his walkie-talkie. He hit 15 feet past the hole and sucked it into the jar. An hour later, Mark Wiebe steps up. Same hole, same club. His ball lands 8 feet left of the pin, takes a hop, and rolls back down into the hole. DePerrior radios again. "We have a hole-in-one on number 6. The scorer's tent responds, "We already got it." "No," DePerrior says. "We have another hole-in-one." 25 minutes later, Jerry Pate does the exact same thing. 7 feet past the pin. Spin. Gone. DePerrior, "We have another hole-in-one." Dead silence on the radio. Then, Steve, we're going to send someone to relieve you." Steve later explained, "They had thought that at 9:50 in the morning, I had been drinking or had lost my mind, and therefore they were going to relieve me of my responsibilities. But they didn't need to check on Steve, because at 10:05 a.m. in the very next group, Nick Price stepped up with his 7-iron and did it again. 4 professionals, same hole, same club, all within 1 hour and 50 minutes. A mathematician later calculated the odds at 410 quadrillion to 1. But here's what's truly heartbreaking. None of it was captured on television. No cameras were stationed on the 6th hole that early in the morning. The iPhone wouldn't exist for another 18 years. The only proof is a flag framed in the clubhouse and a plaque on what used to be the teeing ground. Used to be, because Oak Hill was renovated in 2019. The hole doesn't exist anymore. A halfway house sits nearby, which members affectionately call Aces Cafe. Byron Nelson, 11 consecutive PGA Tour wins, 1945. Our 5th record takes us back to 1945, and this one might be the most untouchable record in all of golf. During the 150 days between March 8th to August 4th, 1945, Byron Nelson won 11 PGA Tour events in a row. Not 11 wins in a season, 11 wins consecutively, back to back to back to back. 11 times. Before Nelson, the record for consecutive wins was 3. So when he won his 4th straight at the Durham Open, he'd already made history. Then he just kept going. 5, 6, 7. By the time he reached the PGA Championship, he was dealing with back pain so severe he needed heat treatments and massages every night. He won anyway, That was win number 9. Nelson later described the streak as a trance. "I had blinders on," he said. "Every shot had a purpose beyond the trophy." He was saving for a ranch in Texas. Each drive, each iron, each chip, each putt was aimed at getting that ranch, he wrote. Each win meant another cow, another acre. His playing partner, Jug McSpadden, had a front row seat to the carnage. McSpadden finished second 13 times in 1945, and 7 of those losses were to Nelson. Years later, McSpadden told him, "If you wouldn't have been born, I would have been known as a pretty good player." For context, Tiger Woods' longest winning streak was 7 consecutive wins. Ben Hogan's longest streak was 6. Nobody else in history has gotten past 5. Breaking this record and getting 12 consecutive wins is very unlikely. First off, you would need to enter 12 straight events, and most modern stars skip tournaments for rest. You'd need to avoid injury for 3+ months. You'd need to maintain elite mental focus for roughly 864 holes of championship golf. And you'd need to beat 150 world-class professionals 12 times in a row. PGA Tour analysts have said it flatly: this record will never be broken. The depth of modern fields makes it mathematically impossible. But Nelson was just a caddy from Fort Worth who wanted a ranch, and he did the impossible for 150 days straight. Ryan Gibson, 55, lowest 18-hole score on regulation course. Our 6th record sounds like a typo, but it's not. It's May 12, 2012, at River Oaks Golf Club in Edmond, Oklahoma. Australian pro Ryan Gibson didn't even feel like playing that day. He had stayed up late at a graduation party Friday night and woke up disinterested on Saturday morning. He texted his playing partner to see if their regular Saturday game was still on and reluctantly got dressed. It had been raining heavily the night before, so the driving range was closed. There was no chance to do a warm-up, but the course opened, so Gibson and 2 friends grabbed the first tee time. 3.5 hours later, he had shot 55, 16 under par on a regulation 6,698-yard course. Gibson started on the back 9. He parred the 10th hole. Nothing special. Then he made eagle on 11, birdie on 12, eagle on 13, then birdie, 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 birdie to finish the 9. He turned in 26. 10 under par on 9 holes. His playing partner Ryan Munson said it simply, "This was just ridiculous ball striking." Gibson wasn't missing anything. He used just 19 putts for the entire round. "Every putt I made was dead center," he said, whether from 30 feet or 5 feet. He birdied 6 more holes on the front 9. By the time he reached his final hole of the day, about 30 people had gathered to watch. He drained a 5-footer for birdie to finish at 55. For context, shooting 59 is golf's holy grail. Only a handful of players have done it on the PGA Tour in its entire history. Gibson beat that by 4 shots. His college coach called it unfathomable. Gibson's reaction? "I really wasn't nervous on those last few holes. I knew I was in the 50s. So it was just a matter of how low it was going to be." The Guinness World Records verified it as the lowest 18-hole score ever recorded on a regulation-length course. So what would it take to break this? A 54. That means birdie or better on every single hole. 0 pars, 0 mistakes, perfect ball striking and unconscious putting for 18 consecutive holes. Golf courses are literally designed to prevent this. It's not supposed to happen. But Gibson wasn't supposed to play that day either. If you are loving this video, subscribe to our channel and help us reach 5,000 subs by month's end. Tiger Woods, 683 total weeks at world number 1. For record number 7 on our list, we have a stat that doesn't sound real until you do the math. Tiger Woods spent 683 total weeks ranked number 1 in the world. That's over 13 years at the top of professional golf, accumulated across his career. The second place name on this list? Greg Norman, with 331 total weeks. That's less than half of Tiger's number. Third place is Scottie Scheffler, the most dominant player in golf right now, with 170 weeks as number 1 as of December 2025. But that's not all. Tiger didn't just rack up weeks here and there. He held the ranking in massive unbroken stretches. His longest consecutive run was 281 weeks, from June 2005 to October 2010. More than 5 years without anyone on the planet surpassing him. Before that, he had another consecutive streak of 264 weeks, 2 separate stretches of 5+ years each. Incidentally, those are the top 2 records for longest consecutive streaks, both held by Tiger Woods. The third best consecutive streak is held by Scottie Scheffler, who currently has 135. No other golfer has ever held number one for more than 100 consecutive weeks. Greg Norman's best consecutive run was 96. That's a lot of high numbers that are tough to beat, but right now, Scottie looks like a good contender to beat them. If he wants to tie for Tiger's consecutive week streak, he'll need to keep his number one position for just over 2 more years without losing it for a single week. And if he wants to tie Tiger's total weeks at number one, he'd need to accumulate another 513 weeks over his career. That's roughly 10 more years at the top. Scottie is 29 years old, so he's got maybe 15 or 16 years of elite golf left in him. If he holds number one for about 60% of his remaining career, he gets there. And this might be even more possible, given the next record we're about to discuss. Phil Mickelson, oldest major winner at 50 years, 11 months, 2021 PGA Championship. 3 weeks before the 2021 PGA Championship, Phil Mickelson told his brother Tim something crazy. "I'm going to win again soon." Tim, who was also his caddy, tried to play it cool. "Let's just make sure we're in contention on Sunday." It sounded crazy because of where Phil was at that moment. Ranked 115th in the world, no top 20 finish in 14 straight tournaments. He'd accepted a special exemption just to get into the US Open because he no longer qualified on merit. The odds makers had him at 200 to 1. Phil Mickelson was supposed to be done, but he wasn't done. The final round of the PGA Championship at Kiawah Island comes around. It's the longest course setup in major championship history, 7,876 yards. Phil is in the final pairing with Brooks Koepka, who's 20 years younger. They trade blows all day. On 16, Phil stripes a 366-yard drive, the longest on that hole all week. On 18, he hits his approach safely onto the green, and then the chaos starts. Fans break through security and swarm the hole. Phil disappears into the mob, emerges with a thumbs up, and 2 putts for the win. Phil Mickelson, at 50 years, 11 months, and 7 days old, became the oldest major champion in history. The previous record, held by Julius Boros since 1968, was 48. Phil broke it by nearly 3 years. This shows us what modern science and the human psyche is making possible. Athletes can stay active longer. We also have to mention Sam Snead, the oldest PGA Tour winner ever at 52 years old back in 1965. But that was a regular tour event, not a major. Phil did it on the biggest stage. "This is just an incredible feeling," Phil said afterward, "because I believed it was possible, but everything was saying it wasn't." To break this record, someone needs to win a major at 51 or older. They need to believe when nobody else does, just like Phil. Young Tom Morris, youngest major champion, age 17, 1868 Open Championship. We've talked about the record for the oldest win. Now let's talk about the youngest. In 1868, a 17-year-old named Young Tom Morris teed it up at the Open Championship at Prestwick Golf Club in Scotland. His main challenger was actually his own father, Old Tom Morris, who was the defending champion and had won 4 of the first 8 Opens ever played. The teenager beat his dad by 3 shots. At 17 years and 156 days old, young Tom became the youngest major champion in golf history. That record has stood for over 150 years, all the way up until today. Young Tom had actually already beaten his father in a friendly match at age 13, when Old Tom was the reigning champion. The kid was inevitable. After winning in 1868, Young Tom won again in 1869, then again in 1870. The rules said if you won the championship belt 3 times in a row, you got to keep it. So he did. There was no Open in 1871 because they literally had no trophy to give away. They had to create a new one. And when the Open returned in 1872, Young Tom won again. 4 consecutive Open championships by age 21. No one has done that since then, and no one has come close to winning a major at 17. In the modern era, the youngest major champion is Tiger Woods, who won the 1997 Masters at 21. That's nearly 4 full years older than young Tom, and this record will probably not be beaten anytime soon. The learning curve in professional golf is so steep and the amateur rules are so restrictive that it's almost impossible for a 17-year-old to even compete in a major today, let alone win one. So what would it take? A prodigy would need to turn pro at 16, qualify for a major field, and beat the best players on the planet as a teenager. The last junior phenom to even attempt it was Michelle Wie, who played in majors at 13 but couldn't break through as a teenager. Tiger Woods, the Tiger Slam, holding all 4 majors simultaneously, 2000 to 2001. We saved the best for last. And this one might be the most unbreakable record in all of sports. It's June 2000, Pebble Beach. Tiger Woods is 24 years old. He opens the US Open with a 65, and from that moment, the tournament is over. By Saturday night, he leads by 10 shots. The rest of the field isn't competing against Tiger. They're competing for second place. He finishes at 12 under. Everyone else, 3 over or worse, 15 shots back. The largest margin in major championship history, but Tiger wasn't done. 1 month later, he wins the Open Championship at St. Andrews by 8. 1 month after that, he grinds out a playoff victory at the PGA Championship against Bob May. 3 consecutive majors. The golf world goes insane. And then everyone realizes what's next. Augusta, April 2001. If Tiger wins the Masters, he'll hold all 4 major trophies at the same time. The media calls it the Grand Slam. Final round. Tiger versus Phil Mickelson in the last group. World number 1 versus world number 2. David Duval, right behind them. Every camera is pointed at the first tee. The pressure would crush most humans. Tiger shoots 68 and wins by 2. When the final putt dropped, something strange happened. Tiger walked off the green and pulled his cap down over his face, getting emotional. "I was in such a zone," he said later, "working so hard on every shot. And then I realized, I don't have any more shots to play. I'm done. I won 4 consecutive majors, 10 months of perfection, 288 holes of the hardest golf on the planet. But there's still one record that sits above it, the calendar year Grand Slam. That's winning all 4 majors in the same year. Masters in April, US Open in June, Open in July, PGA in August. 5 months with no breaks. The last person to win all 4 majors in a calendar year was Bobby Jones in 1930, but those were different majors back then. The modern professional Grand Slam, no one's ever done it. Not Hogan, not Nicklaus, not Tiger, no one. That's one record that's still waiting to be broken. So there you have 10 of the craziest golf records.
But we are just getting started. Next we have every insane rule a Masters champion must follow for life.
Some golf records leave you amazed, but others leave a permanent mark on the game. Did you know that golf records have radically shaped how golf is played? They lead to changes in rules, techniques, and even the ball itself. One of them arguably saved the entire golf tour. Others literally destroyed careers, or even led to a full course redesign. Like the time that Tiger Woods didn't just win the Masters, but broke it. It was 1997, and Tiger Woods was 21 years old. He finished the Masters as the winner and with a 12-shot advantage. This was the largest margin in golf history. The previous record was 9 shots, set by Jack Nicklaus back in 1965. And Tiger didn't just break this record, but he also got the lowest ever final score at Augusta of 270, or 18 under par. This led Augusta to heavily redesign the course. Why? Well, it has to do with how Tiger Woods broke this record. He hit further off the tee than anyone else at Augusta, with an average of 323 yards. His tee shots were 25 yards longer than the next closest player. That kind of distance completely changes how you play a golf hole. Because Tiger was so much closer to the green after his first shot, he could switch to his easiest, most accurate clubs while everyone else was stuck using longer clubs just to get there. On the 15th hole, a 500-yard par 5, Tiger was hitting just 2 shots to reach the green, his driver, then a simple wedge. On Sunday's final round, his longest approach shot into any par 4 was an 8-iron. Everything else was wedges. Augusta National, one of the most famous courses on the planet, was looking like a pitch and putt. Nick Price, who held the course record at the time, watched everything unfold and said, "They have to do something." And he was right. Augusta did do something. Over the next several years, the club launched what became known as Tiger Proofing. They hired designer Tom Fazio, bought land from the neighboring Augusta Country Club, and started adding yards. The course went from 6,925 yards to over 7,400 yards. That's more than 500 yards added. They modified all but 4 holes. Tees got pushed back by 40, 50, even 60 yards on some holes. Fairway bunkers were extended. They planted 36 pine trees along the 11th hole alone to narrow the landing area. They introduced a second cut of rough for the first time in the tournament's history. Chairman Hootie Johnson explained it diplomatically. "I think any of us hate to see people hitting sand wedges into 425-yard par 4s, but everyone knew what it really was. They were trying to stop one man, but it didn't work." Tiger won again in 2001, and in 2002, the very first year after the major changes. And then he won again in 2005. The only thing Tiger Proofing actually accomplished was making Augusta miserable for everyone else. Jim Furyk, who has made the cut at a dozen Masters tournaments, said it best. "When I first started playing that place, it was just a fun golf course. Short irons, crazy greens. Quite honestly, it's not a fun golf course anymore. It's hard. Next is Jack Nicklaus, who set a record that redefined greatness in golf. Between 1962 and 1986, Nicklaus won 18 professional major championships. That's 6 Masters, 5 PGAs, 4 US Opens, and 3 British Opens in just 24 years. It's 7 more major titles than the previous record held by Walter Hagen, and a number that everyone dreams of breaking. But here's the thing. Before Nicklaus, nobody really counted majors this way. Back in the 1940s and 50s, greatness was measured by how many tournaments you won overall, not just the big ones. The best players of that era were Ben Hogan, Byron Nelson, and Sam Snead. Hogan won 64 times, Nelson won 52, and Snead finished his career with 82 PGA Tour wins, the most in history. The benchmark at the time was simple. How many times did you win? The 4 majors, as we know them, didn't even exist as a concept until 1960. That's when Arnold Palmer, fresh off winning the Masters and US Open, was flying to the British Open with a sports writer named Bob Drum. They started talking about what it would mean if Palmer could win all 4 big ones in a year. Before that conversation, no top player had ever organized their entire schedule around those 4 specific tournaments. The professional Grand Slam was literally invented on that airplane. Palmer created the framework. Walter Hagen had set the standard with 11 major titles. And when Jack Nicklaus started catching up in the 1970s, the entire sport followed his lead. Suddenly, majors weren't just important tournaments, they were the tournaments. The 18 majors became golf's second benchmark, the other being Sam Snead's 82 career wins. Tiger Woods has spent his entire career chasing both, and when people debate who's the greatest of all time, they can't agree which number matters more. Next, we have a record that led to the destruction of several great golfers' careers. Between 2011 and 2013, 4 out of 6 major championship winners used the same controversial technique, anchored putting. First, Keegan Bradley won the 2011 PGA Championship. Webb Simpson took the 2012 US Open. Ernie Els claimed the 2012 Open Championship, and then Adam Scott won the 2013 Masters. That's 4 majors won with anchored putters in under 2 years, which doesn't sound like much until you realize it's also every major ever won with an anchored putter. Before 2011, no one had ever won a major this way before, and it's the reason these clubs quickly got banned. Now, if you've never seen an anchored putter, here's what we're talking about. A belly putter is longer than a standard putter. You press the grip end into your stomach, and it creates a fixed pivot point. Your hands still move, but the top of the club stays locked against your body. A broomstick putter is even longer. It anchors against your chest or chin. Both methods turn your putting stroke into a pendulum, which eliminates a lot of the hand and wrist movement that causes inconsistency. These putters were a lifeline for players suffering from something called the yips. That's a nervous twitch that makes your hands shake uncontrollably over short putts. When you anchor the club to your body, those small tremors don't transfer to the putter head the same way. Keegan Bradley admitted it openly. I believe it's an easier way to putt, especially when there's some nerves. The USGA didn't care about these putters much before, because they were never involved in a player winning. In 2011, the USGA director Mike Davis said on TV, "No one's even won a major using one of these things anchored to themselves, so we don't see this as something that is really detrimental to the game." Ironically, that was just 4 months before players started winning with them. And then the USGA became much more alert. Tiger Woods was one of the most vocal critics, saying, "I've always felt that in golf, you should have to swing the club, control your nerves, and swing all 14 clubs, not just 13. The USGA agreed, releasing a 40-page explanation that included this line from director Mike Davis. "Throughout the 600-year history of golf, the essence of playing the game has been to grip the club with the hands and swing it freely at the ball." In May 2013, just weeks after the 4th anchored putter victory, they approved Rule 14-1B, banning the anchoring stroke effective January 1st, 2016. The aftermath was brutal, especially for Adam Scott. Before he switched to anchored putting, Scott ranked 186th on tour in putting, which is terrible for someone with his ball striking ability. With the broomstick putter anchored to his chest, he improved to 102nd and won a Masters. But when the ban took effect, everything fell apart. In 2015, his transition year, he dropped to 158th in strokes gained putting. By 2018, he'd fallen to 193rd, worse than before he ever picked up the long putter. He showed up to the PGA Championship carrying 2 different putters in his bag, desperately searching for something that worked. Scott eventually adapted by using an unanchored long putter with a claw grip, but he's never won another major. Keegan Bradley's career followed a similar trajectory. He went from major champion to barely keeping his tour card, though he's experienced a late career resurgence. The players who'd found salvation from the yips through anchored putting were forced to confront their demons all over again, and not all of them came out the other side. That sounds a bit depressing, but thankfully, this record changed an entire country's relationship with golf and might have saved an entire tour from disappearing. All of that traces back to 1 week in Wisconsin in 1998. Pac was a 20-year-old rookie who had already won the LPGA championship that year. At the US Women's Open, she found herself in a marathon playoff against amateur Jenny Chouasiriporn. After 18 extra holes, they were still tied. Then Pac's tee shot went left toward a water hazard. What happened next became the most iconic image in women's golf history. Pac removed her shoes and socks, waded into the water, and somehow punched the ball back into play. 2 holes later, she drained a birdie putt to win on the 20th playoff hole. She became the youngest US Women's Open champion in history and just the second rookie ever to win 2 majors in a season. But here's what made this different from any other major victory. Back in South Korea, it was the middle of the night. The country was in economic collapse. Unemployment was surging, the currency was crashing, and people desperately needed something to believe in. Millions of them were watching. That image of Pa standing barefoot in the water, refusing to quit, became a national symbol. They replayed it constantly. They built a statue of the shot outside a stadium in her hometown. And across the country, young girls decided they wanted to be just like Sairi Pak. One of them was 10-year-old Inbee Park. After Sairi won, it was on TV every day, and they made advertisements of her hitting it out of the water, Park said years later. I watched it a lot of times, and I said to my parents, I can do that. Inbee Park moved to America 2 years later. In 2008, she broke Pak's record as the youngest US Women's Open champion. She went on to win 7 majors. She wasn't alone. They called this generation the Sairi Kids, and they took over women's golf completely. The transformation is staggering. According to Golf Week, there were roughly 350,000 female golfers in South Korea in 1998. By 2020, that number had grown to over 1.3 million. The LPGA Tour that once broadcast to a handful of countries now reaches over 170 worldwide. In 2024, the CME Group Tour Championship offered $11 million in prize money with $4 million to the winner, the largest payout in women's sports history. Sairi Pak retired in 2016 with 25 LPGA wins, 5 majors, and the distinction of being the youngest living inductee into the World Golf Hall of Fame. But her real legacy walks the fairways every week. She didn't just set a record. She created a pipeline of talent that's dominated women's golf for a quarter century and helped build the financial foundation that keeps the entire tour running. And that's not an exaggeration. Around 2008 to 2010, the LPGA was in serious trouble. The economic recession hit hard, and sponsors were pulling out. The tour that had built women's professional golf was fighting for survival. The Asian market is what saved it. All those Korean players Sairi Pak had inspired were now dominating leaderboards, and fans back home wanted to watch them. Television rights in Korea and across Asia became a lifeline when American sponsors disappeared. Next, we're circling back to Tiger Woods. We already talked about how Tiger's 1997 Masters led to courses being lengthened across the world, but that was just golf's physical response to his dominance. The Tiger Slam triggered something much bigger. It turned professional golf from a niche sport your dad watched on Sunday afternoons into genuine mainstream entertainment, and it made every single touring pro significantly richer in the process. Here's what Tiger did between 2000 and 2001. He won the US Open by 15 shots, the British Open by 8 shots, the PGA Championship in a playoff, then the 2001 Masters, 4 consecutive majors, the only player in history to hold all 4 major trophies at the same time. But what happened off the course might have been even more significant. Before Tiger, golf prize money grew at around 3% per year. Respectable, but nothing special. After Tiger arrived, it grew at nearly triple that rate. Researchers actually gave this phenomenon a name, the Tiger effect. They estimated it added over $1.6 billion to fellow players' pockets. That's billion with a B. Players who never won a tournament were making more money simply because Tiger existed. Here's a concrete example. When Tiger won his first Masters in 1997, he took home $486,000. 4 years later, when he completed the Tiger Slam, The winner's check crossed $1 million for the first time in Masters history. Same tournament, same golf course, more than double the money. So where was all this money coming from? It's actually pretty simple. Tiger made people watch golf who had never watched golf before. TV ratings jumped 24% in his first year alone. When more people watch, networks are willing to pay more for broadcast rights. Shortly after Tiger's 1997 Masters, the tour negotiated a new TV deal worth roughly twice what they'd been getting before. And it wasn't just the networks. Sponsors wanted in too. If millions of new eyeballs were watching golf because of Tiger, companies wanted their logos on that broadcast. More sponsors meant more money flowing into tournaments. And more money in tournaments meant bigger purses for players. A former CBS Sports president estimated that Tiger's presence alone added 30 to 35% to ratings. Not even Tiger winning, just Tiger being there. That's an insane amount of leverage for one person to have over an entire sport's economics. And finally, we have a record that one player called the most atrocious thing to ever happen to golf, even though he's the one who caused it. That player is Bryson DeChambeau. In 2019, he announced he was going to get massive. Everyone laughed. A year later, nobody was laughing. DeChambeau gained over 40 pounds of muscle during the COVID shutdown and came back a completely different golfer. He went from ranking 34th in driving distance at 302 yards to number 1 at 322 yards. That's a 20-yard gain in one season, which is huge, just like he was. That 322-yard average broke the record for longest driving distance over a full PGA Tour season. Then came the 2020 US Open at Winged Foot. This course was supposed to humble the Bombers. It had narrow fairways, brutal rough, the kind of setup that punishes guys who spray it all over the place. DeChambeau hit just 23 of 56 fairways for the week, 4 fewer than any US Open champion in 40 years. But he didn't care. He averaged 325 yards off the tee, bombed it over bunkers that were supposed to be in play, and muscled his way out of the rough like it was fairway grass. He won by 6 shots. He was the only player to finish under par. The USGA had been studying the distance problem for years through something called the Distance Insights Project. They had over 100 years of data showing driving distances increased about 1 yard per year since 1980. Tour average went from 256 yards to nearly 300 yards. Courses kept getting longer to compensate, as we already mentioned, from 5,500 yards in 1900 to over 7,100 yards today. There was more land, more water, more maintenance costs, all chasing a ball that kept flying further. DeChambeau's Winged Foot demolition was the tipping point. Here was a guy who proved that if you hit it far enough, accuracy doesn't matter. The rough can't hurt you if you're 80 yards closer to the green than everyone else. In December 2023, the USGA and R&A announced the first universal equipment rollback in modern golf history, starting in 2028 for pros and 2030 for everyone else. Golf balls will be tested at 125 miles per hour swing speed instead of 120 miles per hour, but they still can't exceed 317 yards. Translation: the longest hitters lose 13 to 15 yards. Average tour players lose 9 to 11 yards, and even recreational golfers lose about 5 yards off the tee. DeChambeau called it the most atrocious thing you could do to the game of golf. Keegan Bradley said making amateurs hit the ball shorter was monstrous. But the USGA CEO Mike Whan said that doing nothing is not an option. One player's physical transformation forced golf's governing bodies to change the equipment rules for every single golfer on the planet. Thank you, Bryson DeChambeau, and thank you to you too for watching all the way until the end.
But we are just getting started. Next, we have every insane rule a Masters champion must follow for life.
Jack Nicklaus. Jack Nicklaus holds the record for most major championship wins with 18, spanning from 1962 to 1986. This isn't just about quantity, it's about sustained excellence across 24 years. 6 Masters, 5 PGA Championships, 4 US Opens, and 3 Open Championships. His majors span different eras of golf, from wooden drivers to metal woods, from small purses to big money. He also had 19 runner-up finishes in majors, showing incredible consistency when it mattered most. Picture this: Augusta National 1986. Jack is 46 years old, written off by most. He's tied for 9th entering Sunday, 6 shots back. Then magic happens. On the back 9, Jack shoots 30, 6 under par in 9 holes. At the par 5 15th, he hits a perfect 4-iron to 12 feet and makes eagle. The roars at Augusta were deafening. On 16, he nearly aces it, tapping in for birdie. On 17, another birdie. When he tapped in for par on 18, he had his 6th green jacket and 18th major. The crowd stormed the green like he just won the Super Bowl. Tiger Woods, the closest contender, stalled at 15 majors. Rory McIlroy has 4. Scottie Scheffler has 2 Masters titles. Modern golf's depth makes accumulating 18 majors nearly impossible. You'd need to win a major every 1.3 years for 24 straight years. The physical and mental toll of sustained excellence over decades is unmatched. Speaking of sustained excellence, let's talk about the most consistent run in golf history. Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods made the cut in 142 consecutive PGA Tour events from 1998 to 2005, surpassing Byron Nelson's 113. This streak showcases Tiger's consistency during his peak years, not 7 years without missing a weekend. The average PGA Tour player makes 3 consecutive cuts. Tiger made 142. This wasn't just showing up either. During this streak, Tiger won 36 tournaments and 8 majors while never missing a cut. He navigated tough courses, injuries, and pressure without faltering. The streak finally ended at the 2005 Byron Nelson Championship at Cottonwood Valley. Tiger needed par on the final hole to make the cut. His approach shot found the green, but his first putt slid past the hole. Standing over a 6-footer to keep the streak alive with thousands watching and knowing the history on the line, Tiger's putt caught the edge and spun out. 1 stroke. After 142 consecutive cuts, 1 stroke ended the most consistent run in golf history. The irony? It happened at the tournament, named after the man whose cut record Tiger had already destroyed. Today's fields are deeper than ever with global talent and unpredictable course setups. Even top players like Rory McIlroy or Scottie Scheffler rarely string together more than 20 cuts. The mental and physical endurance required for 142 straight cuts in today's competitive landscape is staggering. But if you think 142 cuts is impressive, wait until you hear about the most savage winning streak in sports history. Byron Nelson. Byron Nelson won 11 straight PGA Tour events in 1945, including the PGA Championship and Canadian Open, with 18 total wins that year. This was part of Nelson's legendary 1945 season, where he won 18 of 30 tournaments entered, a 60% win rate. His scoring average that year was 68.33, the second lowest in PGA history. The streak included victories against top players like Sam Snead and Ben Hogan, proving it wasn't just about weak fields. He had 28 top 5 finishes in 30 events that year. The streak began at the Miami 4-Ball in March 1945. Nelson and his partner Harold "Jug" McSpadden dominated the field by 8 shots. From there, it was like watching a machine. The Charlotte Open, Greensboro Open, Durham Open. Nelson was unstoppable. At the Canadian Open in August, Nelson held a 4-stroke lead entering the final round. The pressure was immense. 11 straight wins on the line with the golf world watching. Nelson shot 68 in the final round, winning by 4 strokes and cementing the most dominant streak in golf history. Rory McIlroy's best winning streak was 3 in 2014. Tiger's best was 7 in 2006 to 2007. Today's parity makes even 3 consecutive wins rare. The depth of talent ensures this record's safety. You'd need to be so dominant, you're essentially playing a different sport than everyone else. If you love this video, subscribe now and help us hit 5,000 golf fans by month's end. That wasn't the end of it for Nelson. He also holds another record that's equally mind-blowing: Sam Snead and Tiger Woods. Sam Snead and Tiger Woods are tied for the most PGA Tour wins with 82 each. Snead's spanned 1936 to 1965. Woods is from 1996 to 2019. Snead won across 3 decades, different equipment, different courses, 7 majors, but his longevity was unmatched. Tiger matched him with 15 majors and a ridiculous 40% win ratio from 1999 to 2003. Rory McIlroy, with 27 wins, is the closest active player. The modern game's depth makes 82 wins a distant dream. Tiger's 82nd win came at the 2019 Masters, his first major in 11 years. After his car crash, personal struggles, and multiple back surgeries, many thought he was done. But at Augusta, Tiger turned back the clock. Playing with Francesco Molinari in the final group, Tiger was 2 shots back entering Sunday. Then Molinari found the water on 12 and Tiger pounced. A birdie on 15, another on 16. When he tapped in for bogey on 18, he had tied Snead's record and won his 15th major. The roar was so loud it registered on seismographs. McIlroy, at 35, would need 55 more wins to tie this record, roughly 3 wins per year for 18 years. In today's competitive landscape with 150-plus players capable of winning any week, accumulating 82 victories requires sustained dominance that borders on impossible. Speaking of Tiger's dominance, let's talk about the most lopsided major victory in history. Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods won the 2000 U.S. Open at Pebble Beach by 15 strokes, the largest margin of victory in major championship history. This wasn't just any U.S. Open. It was at Pebble Beach, one of the toughest courses in the world. Tiger finished at 12 under par, while the next closest players, Ernie Els and Miguel Angel Jimenez, were at 3 over. That's a 15-shot gap in the toughest tournament in golf. His dominance redefined golf's ceiling. Tiger opened with a 65, putting himself 6 shots ahead after round 1. By Saturday, he led by 10. Sunday wasn't about who would win. It was about whether Tiger would break every record in the book. On the par 4 6th hole, Tiger hit a 6-iron from 177 yards to within 6 feet and made the putt. The crowd went wild. On 8, he hit a wedge to 2 feet. By the time he reached 18, fans were chanting, "Tiger!" He two-putted for par in the most dominant major victory ever. The final leaderboard looked like a video game. Modern majors rarely see margins above 5 strokes due to competitive fields. The U.S. Open's brutal setups are designed to prevent runaways. Today's fields are too deep, too talented. You might get a 3 or 4 shot win, but 15? That's unthinkable. And that performance was so dominant, it sparked debates about competition strength. But here's a record that's purely about longevity. Phil Mickelson. Phil Mickelson stayed in the world's top 50 rankings for 1,353 weeks. 26 years from 1993 to 2019. This record spans multiple generations of golfers. When Phil first broke into the top 50 in November 1993, Tiger Woods was still an amateur and Bill Clinton had just been sworn in as president. The streak included 6 majors, 45 PGA Tour wins, and countless memorable moments. Greg Norman's 331 weeks is second, far behind. The streak finally ended at the 2019 WGC HSBC Champions in China. Phil shot rounds of 75, 74, 73, 69 to finish tied for 73rd. It was a quiet end to an incredible run. But here's the kicker: 2 years later, at age 50, Phil won the 2021 PGA Championship at Kiawah Island, becoming the oldest major winner in history. Standing on the 18th tee with a 2-shot lead, Phil crushed his drive down the fairway. As he walked to his ball, fans stormed the fairway in celebration. It was chaos, but Phil loved every second of his historic victory. Sustaining top 50 status for 26 years requires rare longevity and adaptability. Modern players like McIlroy or Dustin Johnson face burnout or injuries. Rory would need to maintain his form for another 15 seasons to approach this record. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to start posting every day. Thanks. Anyway, speaking of age-defying performances, Byron Nelson. Byron was in the top 10 in 65 consecutive PGA Tour events from 1942 to 1946. This streak included his 11-win run in 1945. During that magical season alone, Nelson had 28 top 5 finishes in 30 events. This wasn't just consistency. This was dominance on a level we can't comprehend today. The streak spanned 4 years and multiple seasons, showcasing incredible sustained excellence. The streak began at the 1942 Texas Open, where Nelson finished tied for second. From there, he never finished outside the top 10 for 4 straight years. At the 1945 Byron Nelson Golf Classic, yes, a tournament eventually named after him, Nelson shot rounds of 69, 67, 63, 69 to win by 8 strokes. The gallery followed him like he was a rock star. Fans would line up just to watch him practice. When he finally finished outside the top 10 at the 1946 New Orleans Open with a tie for 11th, it felt like the end of an era. Modern players struggle to string together 10 consecutive top 10s. Today's deeper fields and global competition make this virtually impossible. Tiger's best comparable streak was 89 consecutive rounds at par or better, but that's scoring, not finishes. Here's the crazy part. Nelson's records might actually be more impressive than what came next. Sam Snead. Sam Snead won the 1965 Greater Greensboro Open at 52 years, 10 months, and 8 days, the oldest PGA Tour victory. This wasn't just any win. It was at the same tournament where Snead had won 27 years earlier in 1938. His longevity was unmatched, spanning from the 1930s to the 1960s. Only 4 players have won past age 50 since 1975. Snead, Mickelson, Craig Stadler, and Fred Funk. Entering the final round, Snead trailed by 2 shots. At 52, most thought he was done competing with younger players, but Snead had other plans. He birdied the 2nd hole, then the 5th. By the turn, he had the lead. On the par 5 15th, Snead hit a perfect 3-wood to 15 feet and made the eagle putt. The crowd erupted. They were watching history. He parred the final 3 holes to win by 2 strokes, proving that experience and guile could still triumph over youth and power. Modern players rarely compete at the highest level past 45 due to physical demands and competition depth. The game's evolution, longer courses, better athletes, advanced training, makes late career wins increasingly rare. That wasn't the end of incredible age-related records. Vijay Singh. Vijay Singh won 22 PGA Tour events after turning 40, including the 2004 PGA Championship, surpassing Sam Snead's 17. Singh's work ethic was legendary. He'd practice until his hands bled, hitting balls from sunrise to sunset. His 34 total wins included 13 between ages 40 to 42, peaking with the 2008 FedEx Cup. He redefined what late career success could look like through pure dedication and relentless preparation. At the 2004 PGA Championship at Whistling Straits, Singh was 41 and facing a field full of young stars. After 3 rounds, he trailed by 3 shots. Sunday's final round was brutal. Winds gusting to 30 miles per hour off Lake Michigan. While others struggled, Singh grinded. He made clutch par saves on 14 and 15, then birdied 16 to take the lead. On 18, needing par to win his 3rd major, Singh hit a perfect 6-iron to 12 feet and 2-putted for victory. At 41, he had proven age was just a number when backed by incredible work ethic. Few players maintain elite performance past 40 today. The physical demands are too great, the competition too deep. Active veterans like Rory or Jordan Spieth are nowhere near this mark, and they're still in their 30s. Here's the thing about all these records. They showcase different types of dominance, but this next one is pure intimidation. Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods spent 683 total weeks as the world's #1 golfer, over 13 years at the top of the game. His longest consecutive streak was 281 weeks from 2005 to 2010, over 5 years straight. Greg Norman, the next closest, held #1 for 331 weeks, less than half of Tiger's total. During Tiger's reign, he won 15 majors and redefined what dominance looked like in professional golf. Tiger first claimed the top spot on June 15, 1997, at just 21 years old after winning the U.S. Open at Congressional. But his most dominant period came later. From June 2005 to October 2010, Tiger was untouchable. During this streak, he won 6 majors, including the 2008 U.S. Open at Torrey Pines on a broken leg. J.C. Snead once said about Jack Nicklaus, "Jack knows he's going to beat you, you know Jack's going to beat you, and you know that Jack knows he's going to beat you." The same applied to Tiger during his #1 reign. Today's #1 position changes hands constantly. Since Tiger's last stint in 2013, it's changed 20 times. The parity in modern golf makes sustained dominance nearly impossible. Rory McIlroy and Dustin Johnson are the only other players to spend over 100 weeks at #1 since 1986. Tiger's dominance wasn't just about time at #1. It was about how he got there. Tiger Woods. In 2000, Tiger Woods averaged 67.79 strokes per round, the lowest scoring average in PGA Tour history. To understand how absurd this is, consider that a typical tour average hovers around 70. Tiger shaved over 2 strokes off the tour average for an entire season. That's not a hot streak. That's months of sustained perfection, where every part of his game was firing on all cylinders. The year 2000 was Tiger's peak. He won 9 tournaments, including 3 majors. At the Memorial Tournament that year, Tiger shot 67, 65, 65, 69 to win by 5 shots. But it was his consistency that was remarkable. Round after round, Tiger would shoot in the 60s. At the WGC NEC Invitational, he shot 61, 67, 68, 69 to win by 11 strokes. Competitors were demoralized before they even teed off. His ability to consistently overpower courses and outthink competitors was unmatched. This record showcases Tiger at his absolute best. When he wasn't just beating fields, he was lapping them. In today's competitive landscape, averaging under 68 for an entire season seems impossible. The depth of talent and course setups make this untouchable. But Tiger's records weren't the only ones that seemed impossible to break. Lydia Company. Lydia Ko won 10 LPGA Tour events before turning 19, starting with her victory at age 15 years, 4 months, and 2 days. Ko burst onto the scene in 2012 at the CN Canadian Women's Open, becoming the youngest LPGA winner in history. Earlier that year, she had won the New South Wales Open at age 14, becoming the youngest player to win a professional golf tournament. By 2014, Ko had 5 LPGA wins and was just getting started. At the 2015 Evian Championship, Ko was just 18 years old and chasing her first major. She entered the final round tied for the lead with Lexi Thompson. The pressure was immense, a teenager trying to win her first major against seasoned professionals. But Ko was ice cold. She birdied the second hole, then the sixth. On the par 5 ninth, she hit a perfect 5-wood to 12 feet and made eagle. The crowd was stunned. They were watching a teenager dismantle a major championship field. She shot 69 in the final round to win by 6 strokes, becoming the youngest major champion in LPGA history. Her consistency and composure were unmatched. While other teenagers figured out college applications, Ko was collecting trophies worldwide. In today's competitive women's golf, such early dominance is virtually impossible to replicate. Modern junior programs produce great players, but none have matched Ko's professional success at such a young age.
But we are just getting started. Next, we have every insane rule a Masters champion must follow for life.
Jack Nicklaus won the 1986 Masters at 46 years old, shooting 30 on the back nine Sunday, while the world had written him off as washed up. So what is the real reason? A man who hadn't won a major in 6 years could suddenly destroy a field of players half his age at golf's most pressure-packed tournament. In this video, you'll discover why records set by Masters champions may be nearly impossible for future generations to break. Not because of talent or distance, but because the combination of mental toughness, course knowledge, and clutch performance these champions displayed is something modern golf's depth and parity may never allow again. But first, let's start with the man who rewrote what we thought was possible at Augusta. April 13th, 1986, Augusta National. Jack Nicklaus is 46 years old, and nobody thinks he has a chance. The newspapers that week called him finished. One writer said his clubs were too rusty. Nicklaus saw those articles, he cut them out and taped them to his refrigerator. Sunday arrives. Final round. Nicklaus starts the back nine 4 shots behind Greg Norman. He needs a miracle. On the 9th hole, birdie, then birdie on 10. Another birdie on 11. The crowd starts buzzing. On the 15th hole, Nicklaus hits one of the greatest approach shots of his career. Eagle. The roar shakes the pine trees. Birdie on 16. The place is going crazy. On 17, his putt drops for birdie, and he raises his putter over his head. That image becomes iconic. He shoots 30 on the back nine. 6 under par over 9 holes under the most intense pressure in golf. He wins by 1 stroke. When he taps in on 18, fans storm the green. Grown men are crying. At 46 years, 2 months and 23 days old, Jack Nicklaus becomes the oldest Masters champion in history. He breaks Gary Player's previous record of 42 years old by nearly 4 full years. The walking at Augusta, the mental strain, the pressure on every shot. It's built for young athletes in their prime. And here's a 46-year-old man shooting a final round 65 to win golf's most prestigious tournament. Phil Mickelson won a major championship at 50 years old, the 2021 PGA Championship at Kiawah Island. But he didn't do it at Augusta. The Masters demands something different. The precision required, the course knowledge needed. This record has stood for 40 years. It might stand for 40 more. But Jack's story at Augusta doesn't start in 1986. It starts 23 years earlier. Jack Nicklaus wins his first Masters at 23 years old. His second green jacket, his third, number 4, his fifth, and then 1986, his sixth and final victory at age 46. 6 Masters victories, 23 years apart. From age 23 to age 46, Jack Nicklaus owned Augusta National. Before Nicklaus, the record was 3. Sam Snead had 3. Jimmy Demarat had 3. Jack doubled it. Tiger Woods is second, with 5 Masters victories. Nobody else has won more than 4. Arnold Palmer won 4. Phil Mickelson won 3. The gap is enormous. To beat this record, someone needs 7 green jackets. Tiger Woods is finished at 5. Scottie Scheffler has 2 Masters wins as of 2025. He's 29 years old. To match Nicklaus at 6, he'd need 4 more victories over the next decade and a half. Modern golf is too deep, too competitive. 20 players show up to Augusta every year with a legitimate shot to win. This record might be untouchable. If Jack dominated for a quarter century, another player did something even more shocking in a single week. April 1997. Tiger Woods walks into Augusta National as a 21-year-old rookie professional. First round, first 9 holes. Tiger shoots 40. People are thinking, here we go, another young player crumbling under pressure. Then he shoots 30 on the back 9, finishes at 70. Second round, 66. Now he's in contention. Third round, Tiger fires 65. By Saturday night, he leads by 9 shots. Sunday, he cruises with a 69. Final score, 270, 18 under par. The margin of victory, 12 strokes. Second place is Tom Kite at 6 under. Tiger is at 18 under. He laps the entire field. This shatters Jack Nicklaus's previous margin record of 9 strokes from 1965. When Tiger walks up 18, his father Earl is waiting. They embrace. Both are crying. At 21 years, 3 months, and 14 days old, Tiger becomes the youngest Masters champion in history. He crushes Seve Ballesteros' previous record of 23 years old by nearly 2 full years. Tiger also becomes the first black golfer and the first Asian American golfer to win the Masters. The cultural significance goes way beyond just the age and scoring records. To beat the age record, someone would need to win the Masters before turning 21. That's nearly impossible in modern professional golf. Augusta's mental test is absolutely brutal. You need years of experience. In the 12-stroke margin of victory, the average Masters is decided by 2 or 3 shots. Most years come down to the final holes with drama and playoff possibilities. With modern parity and deep competitive fields, nobody will dominate Augusta like that again. Both records have stood for 29 years and counting. Tiger's 270 was the lowest score in Masters history, but that wouldn't last forever. November 2020. The Masters has never been played in November before. COVID-19 forced the postponement from April. Augusta looks different. No azaleas blooming. No patrons. The course is soft from fall rain. Dustin Johnson, world number 1, goes to work. Round 1, 65. Round 2, 70. Round 3, 60. Round 4, 68. DJ makes just 4 bogeys all week. 4 bogeys and 72 holes. His ball striking is phenomenal. His putting is unconscious. When he taps in his final putt on Sunday, the scoreboard reads 2 under 68, 20 under par. He wins by 5 shots over Cameron Smith and Sungjae Im. Johnson just shattered the record. Tiger and Jordan Spieth held at 270, 18 under. DJ beat them by 2 strokes. The soft conditions helped, but you still have to execute, and DJ was flawless. To beat this, someone needs 267 or lower. That's 21 under at Augusta. Augusta responded by making the course harder, longer rough, faster greens. They don't want 20 under again. This record is 6 years old, but it might last decades. If you're loving this video, click the hype button and help us reach more golf fans. Speaking of records that might last forever, let's talk about an impossible comeback. Sunday, April 1956. Jack Burke Jr. trails the leader by 8 shots, 8 strokes back with 1 round to play. The tournament is over, or so everyone thinks. The leader is Ken Venturi, a young amateur playing brilliantly. He has an 8-shot cushion. Sunday morning, the wind picks up. Augusta becomes a monster. The greens firm up. Venturi steps to the first tee, and everything falls apart. He's spraying drives, missing greens, 3-putting everywhere. Burke grinds out a 71. Not spectacular, just steady golf. Venturi shoots 80. The wheels come off. Jack Burke Jr. wins by 1 stroke. He came from 8 shots behind. This is the largest comeback in Masters history. It's also the largest comeback in any major championship ever. To beat this, someone would need to trail by 9 shots after 3 rounds and still win. That's virtually impossible with modern scoring. This 70-year-old record might stand forever. Some records are about coming from behind, others are about getting out front early. April 2015, Jordan Spieth is 21 years old. Thursday, opening round. Spieth starts draining putts everywhere. He shoots 64, tying the lowest opening round in Masters history. Friday, second round. another 66. After 36 holes, Spieth stands at 130, 14 under par. He leads by 5 shots. This 13th shatters Raymond Floyd's 36-hole record of 13-1 from 1976. Floyd's record stood for 39 years. Saturday, Spieth shoots 70. Sunday, he closes with 70 and wins wire to wire. Final score 270, 18 under par, tying Tiger's 1997 total. But Spieth set another record. He made 28 birdies over 72 holes. That breaks Phil Mickelson's previous record of 25 birdies from 2001. The average Masters winner makes about 20 birdies. Spieth made 8 more. His putter was unconscious. Every time he stood over a putt, it seemed destined to drop. To beat the 36-hole record, someone needs 29 or better. That means back-to-back rounds of 64-65 at Augusta. To beat the birdie record, someone needs 29 or more. That's averaging over 7 birdies per round. Both records are 11 years old. Spieth proved young players could dominate Augusta, but could anyone win it back-to-back? Winning the Masters once is incredibly difficult. Winning it 2 years in a row, that's happened only 3 times in 91 years. Jack Nicklaus did it first, 1965 and 1966. Then Nick Faldo, 1989 and 1990. Both victories came in playoffs. In 1989, Faldo beat Scott Hoch after Hoch missed a 2-foot putt that would have won. In 1990, Faldo defeated Raymond Floyd in sudden death. Tiger Woods became the third, 2001 and 2002. The 2001 win was when Tiger completed the Tiger Slam, holding all 4 major trophies simultaneously. The 2002 win was him defending as the dominant player. To beat this record, someone would need to win 3 Masters in a row. That's never happened. Not Nicklaus at his peak, not Palmer, not Tiger when he was unstoppable. Scottie Scheffler won in 2022 and 2024, but those weren't consecutive years. The three-peat has never been done. It might never happen. But while winning is usually about low scores, sometimes brutal conditions create the opposite story. The highest winning score in Masters history is 299, 1 over par. 3 players have won with this score: Sam Snead in 1954, Jack Burke Jr. in 1956, and Zach Johnson in 2007. Snead's came in a playoff over Ben Hogan. Brutal wind all week. Rock hard greens. Burke's 1956 win was his 8-shot comeback in windy conditions. Zach Johnson's 2007 win is most recent. Cold, windy, miserable weather. Augusta played like a British Open. Johnson grinded out pars, 1 over 1. These scores showcase Augusta's teeth when weather turns nasty. Modern technology has lowered scoring, but when wind howls and greens firm up, par remains a great score. To beat this in the opposite direction, someone would need to win at 2 over or higher. That would require apocalyptic weather. These records come from tougher eras when golf was about survival. But sometimes the greatest records aren't about scores, they're about breaking barriers. For the first 27 years of Masters history, every champion was American. From 1934 through 1960, only Americans wore the green jacket. Then came 1961. Gary Player from South Africa stepped up. Final round. Player battles Arnold Palmer down the stretch. It's incredibly tight. On the 18th hole, Palmer makes a double bogey. Player wins by 1 stroke. The gallery applauds. Gary Player becomes the first international winner of the Masters, the first non-American to conquer Augusta. This broke a 27-year American winning streak and opened the door for international golf. Today, 35 non-American winners have claimed green jackets, but Player was the first. He paved the way for Seve Ballesteros, for Nick Faldo, for Jose Maria Olazabal, for every international champion who followed. Player would win 3 Masters total, but that first in 1961 was the most significant. This wasn't just a record, it was a barrier broken, an iconic shift, proving the Masters was a global championship. But the ultimate barrier in golf is completing the career Grand Slam. April 2025, Augusta National. Rory McIlroy has been chasing one trophy his entire career: the Masters, the green jacket, the final piece of his Grand Slam. He's won the US Open, the Open Championship, the PGA Championship twice, but the Masters has haunted him for 11 years, since his last major in 2014. He's come close so many times. Runner-up in 2022, a collapse in 2011 when he led after 3 rounds but shot 80 Sunday, near misses. Heartbreak. Sunday arrives. Final round. Rory has a 2-shot lead, but on the first hole, he makes double bogey. The pressure is immense. By the 15th hole, Rory is tied with Justin Rose. Then McIlroy digs deep. Birdie on 15, par on 16, birdie on 17 to take a 1-shot lead to 18. All he needs is par. His approach goes into the bunker. He blasts out to 5 feet. The par putt slides left. Bogey. He's tied with Rose. Playoff. Back to 18. Rory hits his approach to 3 feet. Rose hits to 20 feet. Rose misses. Rory steps up over the 3-footer. The putt drops. Rory falls to his knees, tears streaming down his face. 11 years of pressure, 17 Masters attempts, all pouring out in one moment. He becomes the 6th golfer ever to complete the career Grand Slam, joining Gene Sarazen, Ben Hogan, Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, and Tiger Woods. But here's what makes this extra special. Gene Sarazen was the only other player to complete his Grand Slam BY, winning the Masters. Every other member completed it at a different major. Rory also becomes the first European to win all 4 majors. The Career Grand Slam Club doesn't get more exclusive than this. There you have it. 10 insane records broken by Masters champions. From Jack Nicklaus at 46 to his 6 green jackets. From Tiger at 21, destroying the field by 12, to DJ's 20 under in November. From Burke's 8-shot comeback to Spieth's birdie barrage. From Gary Player, breaking barriers, to Rory completing the Grand Slam. These records prove Masters champions aren't just great golfers. They're legends who rewrote history at golf's most sacred tournament. Which record blew your mind?
But we are just getting started. Next, we have every insane rule a Masters champion must follow for life.
This is one of the most infamous 10 minutes in Masters history. April 10th, 2016, the final round at Augusta National. Defending champion, 5-shot lead at the turn, standing on the scariest par 3 in golf, 2 balls in Rays Creek, a quadruple bogey 7, a record nobody ever thought possible. And somehow, this isn't even the worst disaster Augusta's 12th hole has ever seen. It's April 10th, 2016. Sunday afternoon at Augusta National. Jordan Spieth is 22 years old and the defending Masters champion. He's just birdied his last 4 holes on the front 9 to reach 7 under. He leads the tournament by 5 shots with 9 holes to play. And in Masters history, nobody who has ever held a 5-shot lead walking off the 9th green on Sunday has lost it on the back 9. Nobody. That's 79 Masters tournaments of precedent. The green jacket is as good as his. Then he bogeys 10, lead down to 4, bogeys 11, lead down to 3. He walks onto the tee at the par 3 12th, Augusta's Golden Bell, 155 yards over Rays Creek to the narrowest green in championship golf. At 5:38 p.m., Spieth pulls a 9-iron and swings. He looks away in disgust before the ball even lands. The Titleist he's marked with a Z to remind himself to zero in hits the bank short of the green, bounces twice, and trickles into the creek. He takes a penalty drop 80 yards from the pin, chunks his wedge straight into the water, takes another drop, hits his 5th shot into the back bunker, gets up and down from the sand for a 7, a quadruple bogey. At 5:48 p.m., 10 minutes after he stood on the tee, he taps in and walks off the 12th green, tied for 4th. Danny Willett, playing 2 groups ahead, had started the day 3 shots behind Spieth. In the time it took Spieth to play 1 par 3, Willett had birdied 13 and 14 and taken the lead. He'd go on to win by 3, becoming the first Englishman to win the Masters since Nick Faldo capitalized on Greg Norman's collapse 20 years earlier. But here's what makes this record nearly impossible to break. No defending champion has ever walked the back 9 of Augusta on Sunday with a 5-shot lead and given it all back. Not Palmer, not Nicklaus, not Tiger, not Phil. Spieth stood on that 12th tee with a bigger Sunday back 9 lead than any champion in the tournament's history. And 90 years of Masters history says nobody should have lost it. He did. In 10 minutes? After the round, Spieth said it himself. It was a lack of discipline to hit it over the bunker coming off 2 bogeys, instead of recognizing I was still leading the Masters. And then, it was a really tough 30 minutes for me that hopefully I never experience again. But Spieth's disaster at 12 wasn't the worst Augusta's par 3 12th has ever seen, because 36 years earlier, a British Open champion walked onto that same tee and put 5 balls into Rays Creek. April 10th, 1980. First round of the Masters. Tom Weiskopf is 37 years old. He's the 1973 British Open champion. He's finished runner-up at the Masters 4 times. To Jack Nicklaus twice, to Gary Player, and to George Archer. Of every player in the 1980 field, only one has a lower career stroke average at Augusta National than Weiskopf, and that man is Jack Nicklaus. In Weiskopf's previous 48 Masters rounds, he'd found Rays Creek on the 12th exactly 1 time. Then came the first round of 1980. Weiskopf steps onto the 12th tee. He pulls a short iron. The ball comes up short of the green, hits the bank, and rolls into the water. He drops in the designated drop zone, 60 yards from the flag. Hits his 3rd shot, it lands on the green, spins, and trickles back into the water. Hits his 5th, same thing, lands on the green, spins back into the creek. The gallery behind the tee starts to giggle. Patrons at Augusta don't giggle. These patrons are giggling. Weiskopf hits a 7th shot that chunks straight into Rays Creek, a 9th that barely trickles in. 5 balls in the water. When he finally finds the green and 2 putts, the card reads 13. 13 on a 155-yard par 3, the highest single-hole score in Masters history, tied with Tommy Nakajima's 13 on the 13th in 1978 and Sergio Garcia's 13 on the 15th in 2018, and the only 10-over par score on a single hole in Masters history. Weiskopf told reporters afterward, "When you screw up like I was doing, you just stand there until you do it right." He walked to the 14th tee thinking about withdrawing from the tournament, decided against it, birdied 14, and here's the part that still doesn't make sense. The next day, Friday, second round, Weiskopf stood on the 12th tee again, put 2 more balls in Rays Creek, made a 7. Over 2 days, Weiskopf had taken 20 shots on the same par 3. He missed the cut by 14. Back in the press tent, reporters called him Terrible Tom, a nickname that dated back a decade to his habit of walking off golf courses when things went wrong. But this time he didn't walk. He stood and swung until the ball stopped coming back. Seve Ballesteros won that Masters, his first. Weiskopf never played another competitive round at Augusta without a reporter asking about the 12th. To this day, no other player in Masters history has hit 5 balls into the water on a single par 3 hole. Nobody's lost 10 shots on one hole and stood there for a 6th attempt. Sergio Garcia matched the 13, but he did it on the par 5 15th, where the green is bigger than your house. Weiskopf's 13 is the worst hole in Masters history, but the worst final round in Masters history, that belongs to a man who walked onto the first tee of Augusta National on Sunday with a 6-shot lead and gave it all back. April 14th, 1996. Greg Norman is 41 years old and the best player in the world. He's opened the Masters with a 63, tying the Augusta course record set by Nick Price a decade earlier. He follows it with a 69, a 71, and walks to the first tee on Sunday with a 6-shot lead over Nick Faldo. In PGA Tour history, no player who's ever held a 6-shot lead after 54 holes at a major championship has lost it. Norman's agent Frank Williams is so confident he placed a $10,000 bet on Norman to win at 14-to-1 odds the previous weekend. Saturday night, a bookmaker offered Williams a $100,000 buyout. He turned it down. By the time Norman walks off the first green, the lead is 5. A snap hook into the trees on 1, a bogey. Faldo makes a clean par. On the 4th, another bogey. On the 9th, Norman pulls a wedge short of the green and watches his ball trickle 30 yards back down the fairway. Another bogey. At the turn, the 6-shot lead is 2. It gets worse. Bogey on 10, bogey on 11, a missed 3-footer, and then the par 3 12th. Norman pulls his tee shot and watches it sail into Rays Creek, double bogey. For the first time since Thursday, Greg Norman is not leading the Masters. Then on the par 3 16th, he hooks another tee shot into the water, another double bogey. By the time Faldo holes a final birdie on 18, Norman has shot a 78. Faldo has shot a 67, and the swing from the start of Sunday to the end is 11 shots. An 11-shot turnaround in a single round of Masters golf. Faldo wins by 5, but here's the detail that still doesn't make sense. Faldo's 67 wasn't just the low round of Sunday, it was the low round of the entire weekend. The lowest round anyone shot at Augusta on Saturday or Sunday, and he shot it from 6 shots back, with the pressure of the entire tournament on him. On a day that by all accounts should have been a Norman coronation. The hug on the 18th green is the image everyone remembers. Faldo walking toward Norman, arms out, and telling him, "I don't know what to say to you. I just want to give you a hug." Then, as Norman leaned in, "Don't let the bastards get you down." Afterward, Norman told reporters, "I played like a bunch of foss. I just didn't get the job done." Rick Riley of Sports Illustrated summarized the day in one line that's never left the game. "Where there is a Sunday lead for Norman, there are always Sunday banana peels." That 1996 Masters was the 7th time in 8 major championships. Norman had failed to hold a final round lead, but this was the worst, and here's the number that still stands. 6 shots is still the largest 54-hole lead anyone has ever lost at the Masters. The 11-shot swing is still tied for the largest on the PGA Tour. Not Phil at the 2006 US Open. Not Jean Van de Velde at Carnoustie. Nobody has ever thrown away a major lead like Norman did on that Sunday at Augusta, and on every Masters Sunday since, when a leader walks onto the first tee, the ghost of 1996 walks behind him. Norman's collapse in 96 wasn't even his first Masters heartbreak, because 10 years earlier, a 46-year-old man everyone had written off had stolen the green jacket out of Norman's hands by a single shot. Please help us reach more golf fans by hitting the hype button. Done? Thanks. Let's continue. The Monday of Masters Week in 1986, Tom McCallister of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution published a column about Jack Nicklaus. McCallister wrote, "Nicklaus is gone. Done. He just doesn't have the game anymore. It's rusted from lack of use. He's 46 and nobody that old wins the Masters." Jack's friend John Montgomery cut the article out and taped it to the refrigerator of the rented house where Jack was staying that week. Every time Jack opened the fridge, he saw it. He was 46 years old. He hadn't won a major in 6 years. He was playing only 12 tournaments a year, and admitted later he'd come to Augusta that week to play, not to compete. His son Jackie Jr. was on his bag. After 3 rounds, Jack was in 9th place, 4 shots off Greg Norman's lead. Sunday's back 9 is the most famous stretch of golf ever played. Birdie on 9, birdie on 10 from 25 feet, birdie on 11, bogey on 12, a rare mistake, par on 13, par on 14. Then, on the par 5 15th, Jack hits a 4-iron from 204 yards to 12 feet and buries the eagle putt. On 16, a tee shot to 3 feet, birdie. On 17, an 18-foot putt breaks in for birdie. Vernie Lundquist's call, "Yes, sir," is still the most replayed 2 words in Masters broadcast history. Jack shoots 30 on the back 9, a final round 65, wins by 1 stroke. At age 46 years, 82 days, he becomes the oldest Masters champion in history. Greg Norman, who needed only a par on 18 to tie, pushed his approach into the gallery and missed the 15-foot par putt, his first Augusta heartbreak. And this is where it gets really strange. Before Jack, the oldest Masters winner was Gary Player in 1978 at 42. Jack didn't just break the record, he obliterated it by nearly 4 full years. Phil Mickelson later won the 2021 PGA Championship at age 50, the oldest major winner of all time. But Phil didn't do it at Augusta. Phil never won a Masters after 40. Nobody has, because Augusta punishes old men more than any course on earth. The hills on the back 9, the greens that get firmer and faster every afternoon, the walk from the 10th tee down to Rays Creek, the precision required on every approach shot. The Masters doesn't reward experience the way the Open Championship does. It rewards raw physical execution under the most specific pressure in golf. And the oldest Masters record in the book hasn't been beaten in 40 years by anyone. Not Tom Watson, not Bernhard Langer, not Fred Couples, not Phil, not Tiger. 40 years. That's how long Jack's 1986 record has stood, and based on the way Augusta keeps getting harder, it might stand for another 40. Jack's age record is the most impressive in Masters history, but the most absurd record at Augusta? That belongs to an amateur from Pennsylvania, nobody's ever heard of, who shot one of the worst rounds in major championship history, and he did it in the same tournament that produced the biggest comeback in major championship history. Here's a name you've never heard. Charles Kunkel Jr., a Pennsylvania amateur who showed up to Augusta National in April of 1956 to play the Masters. He holds 2 records at this tournament that will probably outlast every name you've heard in this video. Charles Kunkel shot a 95 in the final round of the 1956 Masters. A 95. Over 72 holes, he shot 340, 52 over par. Both numbers are Masters records for the highest single round, for the highest 72-hole total, and 70 years later, neither has been seriously challenged. When the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette asked Kunkel why he kept playing, he said, "I was just trying to get out of there." Here's why this happened. Bobby Jones himself later called the 1956 Masters the toughest Masters ever played. The wind that Sunday gusted to 50 miles an hour. Augusta's greens were rock hard. The 1956 Masters was the last one played without a 36-hole cut, meaning Kunkel as an amateur had to play all 4 rounds no matter what he shot. And on that Sunday, 29 different players shot 80 or worse. Byron Nelson shot 80. 3-time Masters champion Jimmy Demaret shot 81. The tournament scoring average that week, 77.2, is still the highest in Masters history, but Kunkel's 95 is the one that stands alone, because Billy Casper shot 105 in 2005, 10 shots worse than Kunkel, but Casper didn't sign his scorecard, so it never counted. The official highest round in Masters history still belongs to a Pennsylvania amateur from 1956 who was just trying to get to the 18th green. And here's the part nobody talks about. The same Sunday that Kunkel shot 95, a 24-year-old amateur named Ken Venturi walked to the first tee with a 4-shot lead. Venturi had led the Masters for 3 straight rounds. He'd shot a first-round 66 that was, at the time, the lowest round by an amateur in Masters history. He was about to become the only amateur Masters champion in tournament history. Then Venturi shot 42 on the back 9 and carded an 80. Jack Burke Jr., who had started the day 8 shots behind Venturi, shot a 71 in the wind and won by 1, an 8-shot final round comeback, which as of today is still the largest come-from-behind win in Masters history. So in the same tournament, the same Sunday, in the same 50-mile-per-hour wind, Augusta produced the worst round ever recorded and the biggest comeback ever recorded. Kunkel's 95, Burke's 71 from 8 back. Both records stand 70 years later. Neither has been beaten by a single shot. One shot in this tournament's history has outlasted every record you've heard so far, and we're saving it for last. But before that, let's talk about the record. Kunkel's 95 represents the exact opposite of the lowest 72-hole score in Masters history, set by a man who made just 4 bogeys in 4 rounds during the strangest Masters ever played. November 15, 2020. The Masters is happening for the first time in its 87-year history in the fall. COVID-19 forced a 7-month postponement from the original April date. There are no patrons, no roars from Amen Corner. The azaleas aren't blooming. The course is softer than anyone has ever seen it from the autumn rain. Bryson DeChambeau is the betting favorite, fresh off a US Open win at Winged Foot, and by Sunday night, Bryson will have lost to 63-year-old Bernhard Langer by 1 shot. The winner is Dustin Johnson, world number 1, rounds of 65-70, 65-68, final score 268. 20 under par, the first player in Masters history to reach 20 under, 2 shots lower than Tiger's 1997 record of 18 under that had stood for 23 years, 2 shots lower than Jordan Spieth's matching 18 under from 2015. Johnson wins by 5 strokes over Cameron Smith and Sungjae Im, the largest winning margin at Augusta since Tiger's 12 shots in 1997. And here's what makes this record almost impossible to beat. Johnson made 4 bogeys in 72 holes. 4. The previous record for fewest bogeys by a Masters champion was 5, shared by Jack Nicklaus, Jimmy Demaret, Ben Crenshaw, Phil Mickelson, and Trevor Immelman. Johnson broke a record that had been tied 5 different times over 80 years. He missed only 12 greens the entire week, also tied for a record. He hit 60 greens in regulation, tying Tiger's 2001 mark. It was his 11th consecutive subpar round at Augusta, a streak record that still stands today. Every single box on the Masters scoring record book DJ checked. And the detail that makes this record nearly unbeatable? It happened in November, in conditions that don't exist at Augusta in April. The course was soft from fall rain. The greens held approach shots that in April would have spun off the front. The rough grew differently in autumn. Augusta added significant yardage to multiple holes in the years that followed, specifically at the 11th, 13th, and 15th, to prevent scoring like that from ever happening again at an April Masters. But there's an even stranger moment from that week. The man who put the green jacket on Johnson in Butler Cabin, as tradition requires, was Tiger Woods, the defending champion from April 2019. Earlier that same Sunday, Tiger had shot the worst single-hole score of his entire professional career, a 10 on the par 3 12th, 3 balls in Rays Creek, a bunker shot that went back into the water, 10. In the same round, Tiger fought back to make 5 birdies over his last 6 holes to salvage a 76. On the putting green afterward, Dustin Johnson stood in the green jacket and couldn't finish his sentence. "I've never had this much trouble gathering myself. On the golf course, I'm pretty good at it." Then he turned and wiped his eyes. DJ set the scoring record in November of 2020, but the most impressive young golfer record at Augusta? That one's older than DJ himself, and it was set by a 21-year-old in his first Masters as a professional. Augusta National refused to invite a black golfer to play the Masters until 1975, the year Tiger Woods was born. 22 years later, in April of 1997, Tiger walked onto the first tee of Augusta National as a 21-year-old rookie who had turned professional 7 months earlier. He shot 40 on his opening 9 holes, 4 over par. For the first 54 holes of his first Masters as a pro, he looked nothing like a contender. Then he shot 30 on the back 9 of round 1, a 66 on Friday, a 65 on Saturday, a 69 on Sunday, when he tapped in his final putt on the 18th green and turned to embrace his father Earl. Tiger Woods was 21 years, 3 months, and 14 days old. the youngest Masters champion in history. The previous record was held by Seve Ballesteros, who won in 1980 at age 23. Tiger broke it by almost 2 full years. Read that again, almost 2 full years younger than Seve. And Seve was already considered, at the time, the youngest man who could possibly handle Augusta's mental pressure. Tiger did it at an age when most elite amateurs are still in college. The cultural weight of that Sunday afternoon is something that numbers can't really capture. An estimated 44 million Americans watched the final round of the 1997 Masters on CBS, the most watched golf broadcast in U.S. television history. Golf Magazine summarized what viewers saw with one line: "You couldn't help but notice that Chairman Roberts' rule of golf order had been turned happily upside down. The golfer was black and the caddy was white." Tom Kite, the man who finished second, 12 shots back, told reporters afterward he at least managed to beat all the mortals. And here's what makes this record untouchable. Every Masters winner before Tiger was at least 23 years old. Tiger was 21 and 3 months. In 90 years of Masters history, no champion has ever won younger. Every Masters since 1997 has been won by a player at least a year older than Tiger was. Every single one. Scottie Scheffler was 25 when he won his first. Jordan Spieth was 21 years and 8 months, 5 months older than Tiger's mark when he won in 2015, and that's the closest anyone has come. The green jacket was given to men who'd already lived a career. In 1997, it was given to a rookie who turned pro the previous August and said 2 words, "Hello world." Tiger was the youngest man to ever win the Masters. But the man who's won the most Masters? That's not Tiger, not even close. Please subscribe to our channel and help us reach 10,000 subs by month's end. Done? Thanks a lot. Let's continue. The green jacket has been awarded 90 times. One man has put it on 6 times. Jack Nicklaus won the Masters in 1963, then again in 1965, then back-to-back in 1966, then in 1972, in 1975, and finally, as you've already heard, in 1986. 6 green jackets, over a 23-year span. The 23-year span is a record of its own. No player in major championship history has ever spread their wins at a single event over that much time. Jack's first Masters came when John F. Kennedy was president. His last came during the Reagan administration. Before Jack, the record for most Masters wins was 3. Sam Snead had 3. Jimmy Demarais had 3. Jack doubled the record. Tiger Woods is the closest anyone has ever come to matching him. Tiger has 5 green jackets. Arnold Palmer has 4. Phil Mickelson has 3. Nobody else in the history of the tournament has won more than 3. Tiger's 5th win in 2019, the comeback after his spinal fusion, was one of the most celebrated moments in modern golf. And even after that win, he was still 1 short. And here's what's really wild. The 1965 Masters, Jack's second, he won by 9 strokes over Arnold Palmer and Gary Player. 9. That margin of victory stood as the largest in Masters history for 32 years. The next year, Jack won in a playoff over Tommy Jacobs and Gay Brewer, becoming the first back-to-back champion in Masters history. Only 3 men have done it since: Nick Faldo, Tiger Woods, and Rory McIlroy. Jack himself called his 3rd round 64 at the 1965 Masters, the best round of golf he ever played in a major championship. "I had never before, and have never since," he said, "played quite as fine a complete round. To beat Jack's 6, a player would need 7 green jackets." Think about the math. Scottie Scheffler, the best golfer on earth as of 2025, is 29 years old and has 2 Masters wins. He'd need 5 more over roughly the next decade and a half. Rory McIlroy, who just completed his career Grand Slam at Augusta in 2025, is 35 and has exactly 1. At his current age, even if Rory wins every Masters for the next 5 years, he still won't match Jack. Modern golf is too deep, too competitive. 20 players walk into Augusta every April with a legitimate chance to win. In the 1960s and 70s, the top of the game was stacked with giants: Palmer, Player, Trevino, Watson, but Jack still won 6. Today, the depth is wider, the competition is fiercer, the equipment is equalized, and nobody has a clear lane to do what Jack did. 6 green jackets, 23 years. That's not a record. That's a different sport. But the 9-shot margin Jack set in 1965, the one that stood for 32 years, was blown out of the water by the same man who set the youngest champion record in the same week, at the same Masters. Jack Nicklaus won the 1965 Masters by 9 strokes, a margin that stood as the Masters record for 32 years, until, in a single tournament, a 21-year-old rookie didn't just break Jack's record, he destroyed it. Back to April 1997. Tiger Woods hasn't just won his first Masters at the youngest age in history. He's done it by 12 shots, 12, over the next man on the leaderboard, Tom Kite, a former US Open champion, finished at 6 under. Tiger finished at 18 under. The gap between Tiger and second place was larger than the gap between second place and 20th. He lapped the field. The previous Masters record was Jack's 9-shot margin from 1965. Tiger broke it by 3 full shots, and since 1997, almost 30 years, the closest anyone has come to Tiger's mark is Dustin Johnson's 5-shot win in 2020. Nobody has come within 7 shots of Tiger's margin in 3 decades, and this is the detail that makes this record untouchable. Tiger averaged 323 yards off the tee for the week, 25 yards longer than anyone else in the field. He played Augusta's par 5s in 13 under par. Think about that. 4 par 5s per round, 4 rounds, 16 par 5s total. Tiger played them in 13 under. That's an average score of 4.19 on holes that were designed as 5. He turned every par 5 at Augusta into something closer to a long par 4. Colin Montgomerie, the Scottish world-class player who was paired with Tiger in the 3rd round on Saturday, told reporters afterward he was demoralized by the 7th hole. "I outdrove him on the 1st, Montgomerie said of a fortunate bounce on the opening hole. "That's the last I saw of him all day." The term tiger-proofing entered golf's vocabulary that week. Augusta began lengthening holes, adding trees, narrowing fairways. Every major championship course in the world started looking at their scorecards, wondering how to stop a 21-year-old who hit it 25 yards past everyone else. The equipment has caught up. The courses have lengthened. The field is now full of players who hit it 320 yards, and still nobody has come within 7 shots of Tiger's margin at the one tournament that matters most. Only one major margin in golf history has ever been bigger than Tiger's 12 shots. Old Tom Morris won the 1862 Open Championship by 13. That was 135 years before Tiger's 1997 Masters. In the entire modern era, every Masters, every US Open, every Open Championship, every PGA Championship since 1862, nobody has beaten Tiger's 12-shot mark at Augusta. Tiger's 12 shots in 1997 is the most dominant single performance in Masters history. But the single greatest moment in Masters history? That one was set before Tiger's grandfather was born, in front of 20 people, and nobody has done it since. April 7th, 1935, the second Masters tournament ever played. Augusta National is 3 years old. The tournament is so new, it's not even called the Masters yet. It's officially called the Augusta National Invitation Tournament, and most of the golf world isn't paying attention. Bobby Jones, the course's co-founder, is worried the whole experiment might not survive. Gene Sarazen, 33 years old, is playing in the final pairing with Walter Hagen. Sarazen is trailing the leader Craig Wood by 3 shots with 4 holes to play. Word reaches the group that Wood has just birdied the 18th to finish at 282. Hagen turns to Sarazen and says, "Well, Gene, it looks like it's all over." Sarazen steps onto the fairway of the par 5 15th hole. The hole is then playing 485 yards. His ball is sitting 235 yards from the green, with a creek fronting the putting surface. He pulls a 4-wood. In 1935, the club was called a spoon. Here's the scene. The gallery standing around the 15th green that afternoon numbered approximately 20 people. A sports writer named Joe Williams of the New York Telegram had been walking with Sarazen and Hagen all afternoon, but moments before the shot, he told them, "I've seen enough of you two bums, I'm headed up there," and he walked off to follow Wood to the clubhouse. He missed what happened next. Bobby Jones himself had walked down from the clubhouse to watch Sarazen and Hagen finish. Jones stood on a small knoll beside the 15th green with a newspaper columnist named Ralph McGill. Sarazen swung his spoon. Jones said quietly to McGill, "He hit a great spoon there." The ball flew straight at the flag. It landed just short of the green, bounced once, bounced twice, and disappeared into the hole. A double eagle, a 2 on a par 5, 3 strokes gained with 1 swing. Sarazen had tied Craig Wood. Bobby Jones, who had just said it was a great shot, amended his statement for the gallery around him. "That was the most magnificent shot I've ever seen." Sarazen paired his last 3 holes. The next day, Monday, he won the 36-hole playoff over Wood by 5 strokes. The Atlanta Constitution ran the phrase on its front page, "Shot heard round the world." Grantland Rice, the most famous sports writer in America, called it the most thrilling single golf shot ever played. And Cliff Roberts, the man who co-founded Augusta National with Bobby Jones, said a single sentence about Sarazen's double eagle that still defines the tournament today. It put the Masters in business. In the 90 years since that afternoon, there have been exactly 4 double eagles in the entire history of the Masters. Not one of them has been on the 15th hole. The pond that now guards the front of the 15th green wasn't added until 1949, which means means if Sarazen hit the exact same shot today, his ball would land in water, not on grass. The shot that built the Masters is a shot that can no longer physically be played. 20 people saw it. A newspaperman who walked away moments earlier missed it. Bobby Jones called it the greatest shot ever struck, and 90 years later, nobody has matched it. Gene Sarazen died in 1999 at the age of 97. He kept telling the story of that Sunday afternoon until the end of his life. The tournament survived because of him. The Masters became the Masters because of him, and the shot that built it is still the oldest unbroken record at Augusta National. Out of every record in this video, every collapse, every comeback, every dominant performance, Sarazen's double eagle on the 15th in front of 20 people in 1935 is the one that has lasted longest, and it is almost certainly the one that will last forever.
But we are just getting started. Next we have every insane rule a Masters champion must follow for life. In 1903, Willie, a Scottish club professional, won the US Open. He won it again in 1904. And again in 1905, 3 years in a row. In 120 years of golf since, nobody has done it. Not Hogan, not Nicklaus, not Tiger. Anderson died at 31. Golf barely remembers his name. His record doesn't matter, and he's far from the only one. There are records set before 1950 that the greatest players alive have spent entire careers failing to break. Anderson's father, Tom, was the greenkeeper at North Berwick Golf Club in Scotland. Willie was a licensed caddy on the West Links by the time he was 11. He crossed the Atlantic as a teenager and started grinding as a club professional. He was quiet, dour, his peers called him. Fellow US Open winner Fred McLeod once said, "You couldn't tell whether he was winning or losing by looking at him." He won his first US Open in 1901, won again in 1903, then 1904 at Glenview Club outside Chicago, where he shot 303, won by 5 strokes, and set a new US Open scoring record. He was 24. Now 1 repeat is impressive, 2 in a row is historic, but 3, Myopia Hunt Club. Anderson is 5 strokes behind Alex Smith with 36 holes to play. The story goes that the club tells the professionals to eat their lunch in the kitchen, not the dining room. That's for amateurs only. Anderson grabs a club, walks outside, and takes a divot straight out of the club's lawn. He refuses to eat in the back. The club compromises. They put up a tent. Then he goes out and shoots 76, 77 over those final 36 holes. Smith, who'd been leading, can't break 80 in any of his 3 rounds and collapses. Anderson wins by 2, 3 consecutive US Opens, still the only man in history to do it. Jones, Hogan, and Nicklaus each won 4 US Opens. None managed 3 in a row. Tiger won 3, but never back-to-back. Brooks Koepka came closest, winning in 2017 and 2018. He never got to 3. In October 1910, Anderson collapsed after a series of exhibition matches in Pittsburgh. 2 weeks later, he was dead at 31. The death certificate says arteriosclerosis. Journalist Bill Fields found epilepsy in Philadelphia city records. Historian Robert Summers wrote that Anderson drank himself to death. Nobody knows for certain. Golf didn't forget Willie Anderson. It never learned his name in the first place, but there's a man whose name everyone in golf still uses. They just don't know it. Harry Vardon grew up on the island of Jersey in the English Channel. Jersey is 9 miles long and 5 miles wide, smaller than most golf resort complexes. The last place you'd expect to produce the most decorated Open Championship player in history. In 1896 at Muirfield, a 26-year-old Vardon won his first Open title. He won again in 1898 and 1899, 3 in 4 years. In 1900, the American press called it the Vardon Invasion. He plays 80 exhibition matches across the United States, wins at least 70, then enters the US Open and wins that too, by 2 strokes, 70 out of 80. Then, in 1903, everything fell apart. Vardon is diagnosed with tuberculosis. He spends 8 months in a sanitarium in Norfolk, fighting for his life. The disease leaves permanent nerve damage in his right hand. His putting is destroyed. He starts experiencing what he calls the jumps, an uncontrollable spasm at the moment of contact. Today, we call it the yips. Gene Sarazen, who won 7 majors of his own, later said Vardon was the worst putter he'd ever seen. Not 3 putts, 4 putts. And here's where the record becomes untouchable. In 1911, at 41, with tuberculosis in his lungs and the jumps in his hands, Vardon won the Open again, number 5. In 1914, at 44, he won number 6. 6 Open championships. Peter Thomson won 5. Peter Thomson won 5. Watson was a single shot from 6 in 2009 at Turnberry at age 59, but lost the playoff. Nicklaus won 3. Tiger won 3. To break this, someone would need 7. Nobody's come within one in over a century. One more thing. The most common grip in golf is called the Vardon grip, that overlapping hold where the pinky of your trailing hand sits on the index finger of your lead hand. Vardon didn't invent it. A Scottish amateur named Johnny Laidley used it first. But Vardon made it famous. Over a century later, most golfers on the planet are using a grip named after a man from an island smaller than their nearest shopping center. Vardon's record is over a century old, but the next one is even older, and it belongs to a man whose greatest legacy wasn't a grip or a trophy. It was his son, Old Tom Morris. Here's the detail that makes this record absurd. In 1862, Morris wasn't just playing at Prestwick Golf Club. He was the greenkeeper. He designed the course. He maintained it. Then he showed up to the Open Championship and beat everyone on it by 13 strokes. 8 players in the field, 4 professionals, 4 amateurs, 3 rounds on Prestwick's 12-hole links. Morris opens with a 52, 7 strokes clear, extends to 11 after the second round with a 55, finished at 163 with a closing 56. Willie Park Sr., Morris's fiercest rival, finishes at 176, 13 strokes, in a national championship. Park was so humiliated he challenged Morris to a head-to-head rematch across 4 courses. Morris won that too. Their private challenge matches carried stakes of 100 pounds. When Morris won the Open in 1867, the winner's prize was 7 pounds. The national championship was a sideshow to their feud. That 13-stroke margin is still the Open Championship record. Tiger won the 2000 US Open by 15 strokes, breaking the all-major record. But the Open specifically, still Morris. Tiger's largest Open margin was 8 at St. Andrews in 2000, 5 short of what a greenkeeper did on his own course over 160 years ago. In 1867, Morris won the Open again at 46 years and 102 days old. Still the oldest Open champion in history. Phil Mickelson won a major at 50 in 2021, so the all-major record moved on. The Open record hasn't budged since 1867. One more detail. In 1869, Morris finished second. The man who beat him? His own son. They're still the only father and son to finish first and second at the same major. Morris lived to 86. He worked at St. Andrews into his 80s and designed over 75 courses across Scotland and England. But his greatest creation walked the fairways beside him. Young Tom Morris. September 1868. Prestwick Golf Club. The field includes seasoned professionals twice his age. One of them is his own father, and one competitor is 17 years old. He wins. At 17 years and roughly 5 months, young Tom Morris became the youngest major champion in the history of golf. That record is over 150 years old. Nobody under 20 has won a major since. Tiger was 21 when he won the 1997 Masters. He won again in 1869. On the 166-yard 8th hole at Prestwick, he holes his tee shot, the first recorded hole-in-one in Open Championship history. Then, 1870, first hole, 578 yards. Using hickory shafts and a gutty ball, Morris holes a fairway shot from roughly 200 yards out for a 3. What may be the first albatross in competitive golf history. He won the championship by 12 strokes, and his 36-hole total of 149 was the lowest in Open history. Nobody had come close. 3 consecutive Opens meant permanent possession of the challenge belt, a strip of red Moroccan leather with an engraved silver buckle. Morris claimed it at 19. There was nothing left to compete for. The Open wasn't held in 1871, while the club scrambled to commission a new trophy, the Claret Jug. When the Open returned in 1872, Morris won that too, 4 consecutive. Nobody has won any single major 4 years running since. Tiger's Tiger Slam was 4 different majors. Peter Thomson won 3 straight Opens in the 1950s. That was his ceiling. Then, the tragedy. September 1875. Young Tom is playing a match at North Berwick when a telegram arrives. His wife Margaret has gone into difficult labor. He rushes to the coast, takes a ferry across the Firth of Forth to St. Andrews. By the time he arrives, Margaret and their newborn child are both dead. 3 months later, on Christmas Day, young Tom Morris is found dead. He was 24. The official cause was pulmonary hemorrhage. Everyone who knew him believed the same thing. He died of a broken heart. 60 golf clubs from across Scotland and England funded his monument at St. Andrew's Cathedral. He was 24. The sport mourned him like royalty. The Morrises played for belts, jugs, and honor. The next man on this list played for Rolls-Royces and headlines. Walter Hagen, French Lick Springs, Indiana. The PGA Championship is a match play tournament. Every round is 36 holes, head-to-head. Sudden elimination. 1 loss and you go home. Hagen doesn't go home. He won the 1924 PGA. Then 1925 at Olympia Fields, beating Bill Melhorn 6-5. Then 1926 at Salisbury, beating Leo Deagle 5-3. Then 1927 at Cedar Crest in Dallas, beating Joe Terniza 1-up on the final hole. 4 consecutive PGA championships. 22 consecutive 36-hole match play victories. 22 opponents, each getting a full day of golf to try to beat him. Not one managed it. To break this, you can't. The PGA Championship switched from match play to stroke play in 1958. The format Hagen dominated doesn't exist anymore. Nobody will ever get the chance to try. But the Wanamaker Trophy story is even better. After winning the 1925 PGA, Hagen handed the trophy to a taxi driver with $5 and asked him to deliver it to his hotel. The trophy never arrived. Hagen never reported it missing. He kept winning PGA championships for the next 2 years, knowing the trophy was gone. When Leo Deagle finally beat him in 1928, Hagen had to admit there was nothing to hand over. The original was found 2 years later in the basement of a Detroit company that manufactured Hagen-branded golf clubs. He lost the trophy and kept the secret until Deagle came to collect it. Hagen was golf's first showman. He once showed up to the first tee of an exhibition match in top hat and tails, slightly tipsy from the night before. When Royal St. George's banned professionals from its clubhouse, Hagen hired a Pierce Arrow, parked it at the front entrance, and used it as his changing room. "I never wanted to be a millionaire," he said. "I just wanted to live like one." Bobby Jones didn't play for money, fame, or limousines. He played as an amateur, and he still won everything. Bobby Jones, a 28-year-old amateur from Atlanta, is about to do something so extraordinary that a sports writer has to borrow a term from card games to describe it. May, Jones wins the British Amateur at St Andrews. June, the Open Championship at Royal Liverpool, shooting 291, 2 strokes clear. July, the U.S. Open at Interlachen, 1 under par. September, the U.S. Amateur at Marion Cricket Club, 8-7, over Eugene Homans, in front of 18,000 spectators. The clubhouse was 600 yards away. It took 50 U.S. Marines in full dress uniform to escort Jones through the crowd. The New York Times called it the most triumphant journey that any man ever traveled in sport. 4 majors, 1 calendar year. Sports writer O.B. Keeler borrowed the term Grand Slam from bridge. It sticks. Nobody has done it since. Tiger came closest with the Tiger Slam, winning the U.S. Open, Open Championship, and PGA in 2000, then the Masters in 2001. 4 straight majors, but across 2 calendar years. The true calendar year slam remains Jones alone. He also holds the record for most U.S. amateur titles, 5, won between 1924 and 1930. Tiger won 3. Only one other man, Jerry Travers, reached 4. Jones never turned professional. He was a practicing lawyer. He competed as an amateur during an era when the best golfers in the world were playing for their livelihoods. He beat them anyway. 2 months after the Grand Slam, Jones retired. He was 28. "Championship golf is something like a cage," he said. "First you are expected to get into it, and then you are expected to stay there. But of course, nobody can stay there." Then he co-founded Augusta National, co-designed the course with Alistair Mackenzie, and launched the Masters tournament in 1934. He didn't walk away from golf. He reinvented it on his own terms. Jones left with every record intact. The 2 men who came next had no such luxury. They had to keep playing for 72 more holes in 105-degree heat, 105 degrees. July, Toledo, Ohio, the Inverness Club. The U.S. Open has just finished 72 holes of regulation, and 2 men are dead even at 292. Billy Burke, born William Burkowski, son of Lithuanian immigrants from Connecticut, the first player to win the U.S. Open using steel-shafted clubs, and George Von Elm, the 1926 U.S. Amateur champion from California. Under 1931 rules, a U.S. Open tie means 36 more holes. They play 36 the next day in suffocating heat. Burke shoots 73 to 76 for 149. Von Elm shoots 75 to 74 for 149, still tied. 108 holes of championship golf, and they can't be separated. So they do it again. Another 36 holes. Another day in the Ohio sun. Burke chain smokes his way through every round. By the tournament's end, he'll have gone through 32 cigars. Von Elm drops 15 pounds over the 5 days. Burke later quipped that Von Elm lost 15 and he gained 3. The lead changes hands through the morning. Burke claws ahead on the afternoon 9. bogeys the last. He wins 148 to 149, one stroke, after 72 playoff holes. That's 144 total holes of US Open competition, 5 days, in 105-degree heat, the longest playoff in the history of professional golf, and it can never be broken. The USGA responded by moving the US Open from July to June and eventually eliminating extended playoffs entirely. Modern US Open tiebreakers are two-hole aggregates. A 72-hole playoff is structurally impossible under current rules. The record isn't just unbroken, it's frozen. Burke's only major championship victory, 5 days in Toledo, 32 cigars, and a record that outlived the format that created it. If 72 extra holes in the Ohio heat sounds like the most grueling ordeal in golf, consider what Byron Nelson did in 1945. He didn't survive one long tournament. He won 18 of them. Here's a number that doesn't sound real. In 1945, Byron Nelson entered 30 PGA Tour events. He won 18 of them. He finished second in 7 more, first or second in 25 of 30 starts. Tiger Woods' greatest season was 2000, 9 wins, exactly half of Nelson's total. And golf treated that season like a miracle. Nelson's scoring average that year was 68.33 strokes per round. That number stood for 55 years until Tiger broke it by 16/100ths of a stroke in 2000. Critics point to wartime fields. World War II was still being fought, and some top players were overseas. But here's what the scores actually show. Sam Snead made 26 starts in 1945 and won 6 times. Ben Hogan made 18 starts after his Army discharge and won 5. Snead and Hogan were playing. They were winning. Nelson just won more than both of them combined. And the man who suffered most from Nelson's dominance? His own partner. Jug McSpadden finished as runner-up 13 times that season. 7 of those second-place finishes came directly behind Nelson. McSpadden's 13 runner-up finishes is itself a record that still stands. Nelson was so dominant, he accidentally created someone else's unbreakable record too. But 18 wins isn't even Nelson's most famous record. That belongs to what happened inside that season, a stretch of 150 days where he forgot how to lose. March 8, 1945, the Miami International 4-ball. Byron Nelson wins a team event alongside Jug McSpadden. Then he wins the next week, and the next, and the next. For 150 days, from March through August, Nelson wins every tournament he enters. 11 consecutive PGA Tour victories. Different courses, different cities, different formats. He wins stroke play events and then, mid-streak, wins the 1945 PGA Championship, which is match play. 5 consecutive 36-hole elimination matches against 5 different opponents. A completely different kind of golf. Same result. Tiger Woods' longest winning streak, depending on how unofficial events are counted, was 6 or 7 consecutive victories. Nelson beat that by 4. But this record is more than a number. Nelson had a blood disorder that kept him out of military service during World War II. Instead, he played hundreds of exhibition matches to raise money for war charities. And when the tour resumed full schedules, he played every event with one thing on his mind. He and his wife Louise had both survived the Great Depression. They wanted to buy a cattle ranch in Roanoke, Texas. They refused to borrow a single dollar. "Every time I won a tournament," Nelson said, "I'd say, there's another 10 acres or another cow." He won enough. He bought a 630-acre ranch for $55,000 cash. Every acre paid for with tournament checks from the greatest season in the history of professional golf. Then he stopped. Nelson retired from full-time competition after 1946. He was 34 years old. He didn't leave because he'd lost his edge. He left because he'd earned what he came for. The streak ended at the Memphis Invitational Open, where Nelson tied for 4th. Even when it finally ended, he was still in the top 5. Tiger couldn't match it. Nicklaus couldn't match it. Tiger's longest streak was 7. That's the closest anyone has come in 80 years, and it's still 4 short. He won them to buy a ranch, and nobody since has figured out how to win them at all. 9 records. The oldest is 163 years old. The youngest is 80. Between them, Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus, Ben Hogan, and every player with a tour card has taken a shot. Not one of these records has fallen. A greenkeeper who beat his own course by 13. A teenager who died on Christmas. A man who lost a trophy and kept winning anyway. And a quiet Texan who bought a ranch one victory at a time. Modern golf has better clubs, better balls, better bodies, and better data. It doesn't have better records. Not these ones. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But we are just getting started. Next we have every insane rule a Masters champion must follow for life. Lee Trevino. It's the first tee at Merion, June 1971. The US Open playoff is seconds away, and Trevino pulls a rubber snake out of his golf bag and tosses it at Jack Nicklaus. Nicklaus laughs. Trevino shoots 68 and beats him by 3. 2 weeks later, he holes a 20-foot birdie in a playoff to win the Canadian Open. The next week, he shows up at Royal Birkdale one day before the first round and wins the Open Championship. 3 national championships, 2 continents, 19 days. Nobody had ever done it, but nobody ever can again, because the schedule that made it possible was dismantled decades ago. And Trevino's isn't even the most permanent record in this sport. There are numbers so extreme the best players alive can't get halfway. So what actually makes a golf record impossible to break? Trevino grew up in Garland, Texas, in a 4-room house with no electricity and no plumbing, about 100 yards from Glen Lakes Country Club. His mother raised him. His grandfather, a gravedigger, was the only father he knew. He dropped out in 8th grade to work at a driving range, hitting hundreds of balls a day. When he ran out of people to bet against, he started playing with a taped-up quart-sized Dr. Pepper bottle. Years with that bottle, never lost. He joined the Marines at 17, served 4 years as a machine gunner, and came back to Texas with a golf swing nobody had taught him. The rubber snake, a toy his daughter slipped into his bag. The legend says Trevino threw it to rattle Nicklaus. The truth is better. Nicklaus asked to see it. Trevino tossed it over. Then he beat him by 3. At Royal Birkdale, he held the lead from the second round onward and won by 1 over Lu Lianghuan. Broadcaster Henry Longhurst called the triple a hat trick unparalleled in the annals of golf. Sports Illustrated named Trevino its Sportsman of the Year. The AP named him Male Athlete of the Year. Tiger Woods matched the feat in 2000, winning the US Open, Canadian Open, and Open Championship in the same calendar year. But Tiger's wins were spread across the summer. Trevino did it in consecutive weeks, and the modern schedule will never put those 3 events back to back again. A gravedigger's grandson, a Marine, and a Dr. Pepper bottle, and a record that outlived the schedule that created it. But if Trevino's record is locked behind a calendar, the next one is locked behind something even harder to overcome: pure impossible math. It's June 2000, the 100th US Open, Pebble Beach, California. Tiger Woods is 24 years old. He opens with a 65, the lowest first round in Pebble Beach US Open history. By Friday night, he leads by 6, the largest 36-hole lead in US Open history. By Saturday 10, the largest 54-hole lead in US Open history. Sunday is a formality. He plays the final round bogey-free, shoots 67, finishes at 12 under par on a par 71 course where nobody else in the 156-player field manages to break par for the week. Ernie Els and Miguel Angel Jimenez tie for second at 3 over, 15 strokes back. 15! The largest winning margin in the history of any major championship. The previous US Open record had stood since 1899, when Willie Smith won by 11 at Baltimore Country Club. Tiger didn't just break that mark, he beat it by 4. He played the first 22 holes of the tournament without a bogey. He played the final 26 without one either. He never 3-putted, not once. In 72 holes of a US Open on Pebble Beach greens, with the weight of the 100th championship, Tiger Woods did not 3-putt a single time. To break this, someone would need to win a major by 16 strokes, in an era where the average margin of victory at a US Open is under 3, where 156 players show up with the same launch monitors, the same biomechanics coaches, the same equipment technology. The gap between the best player and the 100th best player shrinks every year. A 15-stroke gap gets more impossible, not less. Tiger was 12 under. The next best score was 3 over. That's not a golf tournament, that's a different sport. Tiger's most dominant single performance isn't his most unbreakable number. There's a record that doesn't belong to a week. It belongs to 36 years, and it belongs to Jack Nicklaus. Here's a record most people have never heard of. From the 1962 Masters to the 1998 US Open, Jack Nicklaus played in every single major championship. 146 consecutive starts, 36 and a half years without missing one. No illness, no injury withdrawal, no personal emergency. For 36 years, 4 times a year, Nicklaus showed up. During those 146 majors, he won 18, finished second 19 times. From 1962 through 1980, he finished in the top 3 at 41 of 76 majors. That's 54%. For nearly 2 decades, Nicklaus wasn't just entering, he was contending more often than not. The streak includes his 1986 Masters victory at age 46, one of the greatest moments in golf history. It includes his final competitive push at the 1998 Masters, where he tied for 6th at 58 years old, despite a hip so painful he could barely finish the walk. He played because that's what he'd done for 36 years. The closest challenger, Adam Scott. He just qualified for his 100th consecutive major at the 2026 US Open at Shinnecock Hills. That sounds close until you do the math. Scott is already 45. To reach 147, he'd need to play every single major through 2038. He'd be 58 years old, and unlike Nicklaus in his era, modern exemption criteria don't guarantee you a spot just because you were once great. The modern swing makes this even more impossible. Nicklaus used a classic leg-driven motion that reduced lower back stress. Today's players generate 120+ miles per hour of clubhead speed through extreme spinal torque. Brooks Koepka has missed majors due to injury. Tiger has missed majors. Rory McIlroy has missed majors. The bodies that produce modern distance don't survive 36 years of competition. Nicklaus played 146 consecutive. The next best active player just hit 100. The record doesn't shrink. It grows. Hogan's record required something even more impossible. Not showing up for 36 years. Surviving a crash that should have killed him and then winning everything. February 2nd, 1949. Highway 80, West Texas. Dense fog. A Greyhound bus pulls out to pass a truck and fills Ben Hogan's lane head-on. In the split second before impact, Hogan throws himself across his wife Valerie's lap. The steering column crushes the driver's seat where he'd been sitting. His body shields hers. She walks away with minor injuries. He doesn't walk at all. Double fracture of the pelvis, fractured collarbone, fractured left ankle, chipped rib. Then the blood clots. One reaches his lung. Doctors perform emergency surgery to tie off the vena cava, the main vein carrying blood from his lower body to his heart. He will have circulatory problems in his legs for the rest of his life. Doctors aren't sure he'll survive. If he does, they aren't sure he'll walk. Professional golf is out of the question. 16 months later, Hogan is standing over a 1-iron on the 72nd hole of the US Open at Merion. He needs par to force a playoff. He hits the shot 40 feet from the pin, 2 putts, forces the playoff, wins it. The miracle at Merion. Photographer Hy Peskin captures the 1-iron mid-flight, and it becomes one of the most famous images in sports. But the real miracle is still 3 years away. In 1953, 4 years after the crash, Ben Hogan enters 6 tournaments. He wins 5 of them. 3 of those 5 are majors. The Masters at Augusta, he shoots 70, 69, 66, 69 for a 274 total, 14 under par, and wins by 5, a new tournament scoring record. The US Open at Oakmont, he opens with a 67, wins by 6 over Sam Snead. The Open Championship at Carnoustie, his first and only trip to Scotland. The Scots call him Wee Iceman. He improves his score every single round. 73, 71, 70, 68. The final round 68 is a course record. He wins by 4, 3 majors in 1 season. The only reason it wasn't 4 is that the PGA Championship overlapped with the Open Championship on the calendar. Hogan couldn't be in 2 places at once. Tiger Woods won 3 majors in 2000, but Tiger did it healthy, in his prime, at 24. Hogan did it at 40, with legs wrapped in bandages, 4 years after doctors said he'd never walk again. Survive a near-fatal crash, return to elite golf, win 3 majors in a single season. Nobody has come close, nobody can. Hogan's record required surviving the impossible. This next one required starting the impossible at 15 years old. In 1991, a 15-year-old from Cypress, California enters the US Junior Amateur. Match play, single elimination, 1 loss and you're gone. He wins. Defeats Brad Zwetschke on the first extra hole. In 1992, he wins again. Beats Mark Wilson, 1-up. In 1993, a 3rd straight. Beats Ryan Armour on the first extra hole. 3 consecutive US Junior Amateurs. Nobody had ever done that. Then Tiger moves up. The US Amateur is a different level entirely. Older players, college stars, some already competing on professional tours, deeper fields, longer courses, heavier pressure. In 1994, he beats Trip Quaney, 2-up in a 36-hole final. In 1995, Buddy Marucci, 2-up. In 1996, Steve Scott. This is the one that nearly ends everything. After the morning round of the 36-hole final at Pumpkin Ridge, Tiger is 5 down. Scott, a 19-year-old from the University of Florida, has shot the equivalent of a 68. Tiger looks finished. He shoots 65 in the afternoon, 7 under par, storms all the way back. Scott is 2-up with 3 holes to play, and then, on the 16th green, Tiger fails to replace his ball marker in its original position, a violation that would cost him the hole, the match, and the entire streak. But Scott, the man trying to beat him, quietly points it out. Tiger fixes it. The streak survives because his opponent chose sportsmanship over strategy. Tiger wins the last 2 holes to force extra holes, then wins on the 38th. 6 consecutive USGA national championships, 3 juniors and 3 amateurs. Nobody else has won 3 straight of either. In 2026, the USGA renamed both of its top amateur awards. The U.S. Amateur Champion now receives the Tiger Woods Medal. The Junior Champion receives the Tiger Woods Trophy. USGA CEO Mike Whan. Tiger Woods redefined what was possible in amateur golf. Match play is elimination roulette. One bad day, one hot opponent, one unlucky bounce, and it's over. Tiger survived that 6 consecutive times across 2 different championships. 3 of those 6 finals went to extra holes. He was one unreplaced ball marker from losing it all. 6 straight years of elimination golf is the ultimate test of nerve. What Tiger did next was the ultimate test of consistency. 7 years without a single bad week. From the 1998 Buick Invitational to the 2005 Byron Nelson Championship, Tiger Woods entered 142 consecutive PGA Tour events and made the cut in every one. 7 years. Different courses, different conditions, different 156 player fields, rain, wind, heat, jet lag, injuries, cold streaks on the greens. For 142 straight tournaments, Tiger was good enough over 36 holes to be in the top half of the best players in the world. The previous record was 113, held by Byron Nelson. Tiger beat that by 29. In 2003, at the Buick Classic, the streak nearly died. Tiger was on the cut line at his final hole of the second round. He pulled his tee shot into the rough, scrambled to the green, and sank an 8-foot putt to survive. One miss, and the streak ends somewhere around 80. Instead, he made it and kept going for 2 more years. The streak ended at the 2005 Byron Nelson. He missed by 1 stroke. Even the ending was barely a loss. The closest anyone has come since? Xander Schauffele, one of the most consistent ball strikers on the planet. His streak ended in January 2026 at the Farmers Insurance Open. Torrey Pines missed a birdie putt on his final hole. His total, 72, barely half of Tiger's number. The current world number 1, Scottie Scheffler, has the longest active streak at roughly 73, still nearly 70 short. 2 generational talents, both in their primes, with every advantage modern golf can offer. The best active streak in the sport is roughly half of Tiger's record. Making a cut means beating roughly half of a 156-player field. Even for a top 5 player, variance over 36 holes is real. A bad weather draw, a cold putter, one drive that catches a lip. Compounding that over 142 events makes a clean run almost mathematically impossible. Tiger's 142 stopped being a record a long time ago. Now it's a statistical anomaly. The next record doesn't require being the best. It requires being the best for the longest, and the man who holds it did it in a way nobody saw coming. Vijay Singh won his first PGA Tour event at 30. He won his last at 45. But here's the number that defines him. 22 of his 34 career PGA Tour victories came after he turned 40, 65%. 2/3 of his career wins came in what the rest of the sport considers the twilight years. The previous record for wins after 40 belonged to Sam Snead at 17. Singh didn't just break it, he lapped it. In 2004, at 41, Singh won 9 PGA Tour events, 9 in a single season. That's more wins in 1 year than most professionals accumulate in an entire career. One of those 9 was the PGA Championship at Whistling Straits, his 3rd major, where he beat Chris DeMarco and Justin Leonard in a 3-hole aggregate playoff. In 2008, at 45, he won the WGC Bridgestone Invitational and captured the first FedEx Cup title. The explanation was volume. Singh outworked every player on the planet. His caddy, Dave Renwick, described off weeks. You're going to Jacksonville. He's in the gym at 6:30, and you show up at 7:30 on the range, bleary-eyed, and he's already sweated 10 times and ready to go. Singh would hit balls in his backyard for hours, then handpick every single one, walk them back to the starting point, and do it again. A friend offered to buy him a range picker. Singh refused. His reason? He said he wouldn't care as much about the shots going offline if a machine collected them. He needed to walk to each ball. He needed to care about every one. If I can hit the ball the way I want to hit it on the range, Singh said, I'd rather do that than play golf. Born in Lautoka, Fiji, population 70,000, the most PGA Tour wins by a non-American player. And 22 of those 34 came after the age when most golfers start shopping for a spot on the Champions Tour. Nobody is trending toward this record. The modern swing breaks bodies down by the late 30s. The competition deepens every year. Phil Mickelson won the 2021 PGA Championship at 50, but that was one tournament. not 22 across a decade. Singh won because he practiced harder than anyone alive, and he didn't peak until most players stop. But if 22 wins after 40 sounds like the hardest number in golf, there's one that makes it look modest. It belongs to two men who may be frozen in a tie forever. 82. Sam Snead won his first PGA Tour event in 1936 at the Oakland Open. He won his last in 1965 at the Greater Greensboro Open. 29 years of winning, 4 different decades, from hickory shafts to steel, through World War II, through the arrival of television golf. 82 victories. For most of the sport's history, that number stood alone. Then, on October 27, 2019, Tiger Woods wins the Zozo Championship in Chiba, Japan. He shoots 64 in the second round, wins by 3. It is his 82nd PGA Tour victory. He ties Snead. He hasn't won since. Two men, 82 wins each, a tie that may never break. The closest active player is Rory McIlroy, 6 majors, back-to-back Masters titles in 2025 and 2026. The career Grand Slam, the best European golfer of his generation and possibly ever. His PGA Tour win total, 30, 52 short. Next is Scottie Scheffler, 20 wins in 151 career starts, the third fastest player to 20 victories in PGA Tour history, behind only Tiger and Nicklaus. Even at Scheffler's pace, the most dominant start to a career in a generation, he'd need 62 more wins to reach 83. At 5 wins per year, a rate almost nobody sustains for more than 3 or 4 seasons. That's 12 more years of peak performance. The math doesn't cooperate. Modern golf makes this permanent. Players now enter 15 to 20 events per year. In Snead's era, a player might enter 30. Fewer starts means fewer chances. The fields are deeper than they've ever been. The gap between the best player and the 100th best has never been smaller. Winning 3 times in a season is exceptional today. 82 times in a career requires both peak-era dominance and 20-plus years of sustained winning. Nobody active has reached half. Snead never won the US Open. He finished second 4 times. The record he chased his entire life was the one he couldn't get, but the one he built over 29 years without a thought became the most permanent number in the sport. Tiger tied it in Japan at dusk, in a tournament most American fans didn't watch, and now they're locked together at 82, staring across 54 years of professional golf. 8 records. The most recent has stood for over 2 decades. The oldest has stood since 1953. Between them, the deepest fields, the best equipment, and the most athletic generation of golfers in history have taken their shots. Not one has fallen. A gravedigger's grandson who won 3 Opens in 19 days, a man who survived a bus crash and won 3 majors 4 years later, a 15-year-old whose opponent saved his streak out of sportsmanship, and a quiet Fijian who refused to let a machine pick up his range balls. Modern golf has better data, better bodies, better clubs, and better coaching. It doesn't have better records. Not these ones, not yet, and maybe not ever. But we are just getting started. Next we have every insane rule a Masters champion must follow for life.
What if I told you there's a place where dropping a single dollar could turn your weekend golf trip into the story your friends tell for the next decade? Welcome to the Oregon coast, where Gearhart Golf Links has created something that sounds too good to be true, but absolutely isn't. They've got this weathered wooden piggy bank sitting right there on their final tee box, and the deal is simple. Drop in $1, play their monster finishing hole, and if you can beat the expected score by just 1 shot, you take home every dollar that's been collected. But here's what makes this absolutely brilliant, and why you need to experience this with your crew. This isn't happening at some fancy country club where you need connections to get in. This is a public course in a laid-back coastal town where families vacation, friends plan reunions, and companies organize retreats. Picture rolling up with your college buddies for a long weekend, or convincing your office to do the annual golf outing here instead of the same boring local course. The magic starts the moment someone spots that piggy bank. Suddenly, your casual round transforms into something electric. Everyone's throwing in their dollar, making jokes about who's going to be buying dinner tonight. Your normally quiet friend becomes the group's biggest cheerleader. The guy who usually complains about everything starts giving everyone putting tips. Here's the part that'll blow your mind. People actually win this thing. Not once in a blue moon. We're talking about once a month during busy season. The course manager told me they get 10 to 15 people contributing daily during summer, which means by the time someone conquers this challenge, there's usually $200 to $400 waiting in that piggy bank. Think about those odds for a second. You're not buying a lottery ticket with 1,000,000-to-1 chances. You're not playing some rigged carnival game. This is a legitimate golf challenge that rewards actual skill. and the success rate is surprisingly reasonable. The hole itself is a beast, over 600 yards climbing uphill with trouble lurking everywhere. Thick fescue grass on the right side that'll swallow your ball like quicksand. Out-of-bounds stakes on the left that mean penalty strokes and lost balls. An elevated green that makes judging distance tricky even for experienced players. But that's exactly why winning feels so incredible. This isn't some gimmicky 10-foot putt or trick shot. This is a real golf hole that demands strategy, skill, and a little bit of luck. When you finally sink that winning shot, you've genuinely earned it. Now imagine the scene when someone's actually got a chance to win. Word spreads around the course. Other groups stop what they're doing to watch. The staff comes out to witness and verify. There's this electricity in the air that you can't manufacture. It's pure, authentic excitement. And here's what makes this place perfect for your next group adventure. Win or lose, you're having an unforgettable time. The course sits where the Pacific Ocean meets rolling green hills. There are rocking chairs overlooking the fairways where you can celebrate victories or laugh off defeats while watching the sunset. They've got a secret room hidden in the clubhouse that becomes a treasure hunt for curious visitors. The town itself is pure charm, the kind of place where you walk to dinner, everyone's friendly, and the pace of life slows down just enough to remember why you planned this trip in the first place. But the real genius of this challenge is the stories it creates. Years from now, your group will still be talking about that weekend at the Oregon coast. Whether someone won the piggy bank or you all went down in flames, it becomes part of your shared mythology. Your kids will hear about it. Your coworkers will wish they'd been there. This is what separates Gearhart from every other golf course in America. They've figured out how to turn a simple game into a bonding experience, a dollar investment into potential dinner money, and a weekend getaway into a story worth telling. The best part? That piggy bank is sitting there right now, getting fuller every day, waiting for you and your friends to show up and take your shot. Ready for the next course with higher stakes? The Lit 9, the $10,000 putting challenge. What if making one putt could pay off your student loans, cover a family vacation, or fund that business idea you've been dreaming about? At the Lit 9 in Austin, Texas, that's not fantasy. It's a daily possibility. This isn't your neighborhood mini golf course with plastic dinosaurs and fake waterfalls. The Lit 9 is a legitimate putting course where real money changes hands, and the technology behind it makes everything official. When you arrive, you'll scan a QR code that opens up a betting interface on your phone, showing you exactly what's at stake. Here's where it gets interesting. You're not locked into one bet amount. The system offers multiple wagering options, each with corresponding payouts. Maybe you're feeling conservative and want to risk $5 for a smaller but still significant prize. Or perhaps you're feeling bold and ready to put $20 on the line for that life-changing $10,000 payout. The choice is entirely yours, and the digital system tracks everything automatically. The challenge itself takes place on what looks like a putting green designed by an evil genius. You're facing a putt across terrain that features multiple ridges, elevation changes, and slopes that seem to shift direction just when you think you've figured them out. It's not impossibly long, but the path to the hole requires reading the green like a topographical map. Austin's tech-forward culture makes this digital betting system feel perfectly natural. This is the city that gave us South by Southwest, where innovation meets entertainment. The Lit 9 represents that same spirit, taking something traditional like putting and adding modern technology to create an entirely new experience. Consider this for your next corporate team-building event. Instead of another trust fall exercise or boring conference room workshop, imagine bringing your colleagues here. The QR code system means everyone can participate at their comfort level. The cautious accountant might bet $5 while the risk-taking sales manager goes for the full $20. Suddenly, you've got genuine excitement and friendly competition that actually brings people together. The beauty of the digital system is transparency. Everyone can see the current prize pools, the odds, and exactly what they're playing for. There's no confusion, no arguments about payouts, and no wondering if the game is legitimate. Your phone shows you everything in real time. What makes this challenge particularly addictive is how achievable it feels. Unlike hitting a golf ball 200 yards or making a basketball shot from half court, putting is something most people have attempted. You've probably made impressive putts on vacation mini golf courses or at office putting contests. That familiarity breeds confidence, which is exactly what makes this challenge so compelling. The green itself is a masterpiece of difficulty disguised as simplicity. Those ridges aren't just obstacles. They're strategic elements that can either help guide your ball toward the hole or send it rolling away in frustration. The speed is calibrated perfectly, too hard, and your ball races past the target, too soft and it won't climb over the humps. Picture the scene when someone's lining up for the big money attempt. The digital system has confirmed their bet, the prize amount is displayed clearly, and suddenly this putting green becomes the center of attention. Other players pause their games to watch. The atmosphere shifts from casual fun to genuine drama. Austin's entrepreneurial spirit shines through this entire concept. This isn't just entertainment. It's a business model that rewards skill while creating unforgettable experiences. The city that celebrates innovation has produced a putting challenge that's both high-tech and high-stakes. The QR code system also means you can track your attempts, see historical data, and even share your results on social media. When you finally make that winning putt, the technology captures the moment and helps you broadcast your success to the world. Whether you're a local looking for weekend excitement or a visitor wanting to experience Austin's unique culture, the Lit 9 represents everything great about this city. It's innovative, entertaining, and potentially profitable. Butler Pitch and Putt, the $30,000 hole-in-one challenge, 70 yards. That's all that stands between you and enough money to buy a brand new car, pay off crushing student debt, or fund that dream vacation you've been postponing for years. At Butler Pitch and Putt in Austin, Texas, they've created the most audacious bet in American golf. And people are winning. This isn't some carnival game designed to separate you from your money. This is a legitimate golf shot that skilled players make regularly, except here, making it could literally change your financial situation overnight. The QR code system lets you choose your risk level. Maybe you start conservative with a smaller bet, or maybe you go all in for that life-altering $30,000 payout. Here's what makes this absolutely brilliant. Austin has always been the city where crazy ideas become reality. This is where South by Southwest transformed from a small music festival into a global phenomenon, where food trucks became gourmet destinations, where Keep Austin Weird isn't just a slogan, it's a business model. Butler Pitch and Putt represents that same innovative spirit, turning a simple golf shot into a potential life changer. The distance seems almost insulting in its simplicity. 70 yards is shorter than most city blocks. You can see the flag clearly, judge the wind easily, and there's no mystery about where you're aiming. Professional golfers would consider this a routine warm-up shot. But add $30,000 to the equation, and suddenly your hands start shaking before you even address the ball. This is perfect for that milestone birthday celebration you're planning. Instead of another predictable dinner where everyone forgets the details within a week, imagine bringing your celebration here. The birthday person gets one shot at the ultimate gift, enough money to make their next year significantly better. Win or lose, it becomes the story that defines the entire celebration. The technology behind this challenge is flawless. Scan the QR code, select your betting level from the available options, and everything is tracked digitally. No confusion about payouts, no arguments about rules, no wondering if the game is legitimate. Your phone shows you exactly what you're risking and exactly what you could win. What separates this from pure gambling is the skill factor. This isn't a slot machine or lottery ticket where luck is everything. Golfers with solid short game skills have a genuine advantage here. The shot requires proper club selection, accurate distance judgment, and smooth execution under pressure. All learnable, improvable skills. The atmosphere when someone steps up for the maximum bet is absolutely electric. Word spreads beyond the course boundaries. Local golfers pause their rounds to witness potential history. Staff members gather with cameras ready. The entire facility holds its breath as someone lines up a shot that could pay their rent for 2 years. Austin's culture of supporting bold moves makes this challenge feel perfectly natural. This is a city that celebrates risk-takers, innovators, and people brave enough to chase their dreams. Taking a shot at $30,000 fits right into that mentality. It's audacious, it's entertaining, and it just might work. The psychological element is fascinating to watch. That $30,000 represents real money with real impact. It's not retire immediately wealth, but it's definitely solve major problems money. Car payments, medical bills, home improvements, emergency funds. This single shot could address any of those concerns instantly. But here's the beautiful part about this challenge. Even if you don't win, you've done something extraordinary. You've taken a shot that most people only fantasize about. You've put yourself in position for a moment that could become legendary. The courage to try is almost as valuable as the money itself. The digital system captures everything, creating instant verification and immediate bragging rights. Make that shot, and within seconds you've got proof of one of the most incredible moments in golf history. Miss it, and you've still got an amazing story about the day you went for broke on a single swing. Whether you're a local thrill seeker or someone who's traveled specifically for this challenge, Butler Pitch and Putt represents something uniquely American. The belief that with enough skill and courage, anyone can change their circumstances in a single moment. This is where ordinary people take extraordinary shots, where dreams either come true or get postponed until next visit, and where the question isn't whether the shot is possible, but whether you're brave enough to try. The perfect ending. And there you have it, your complete guide to every golf course in America that will actually pay you to play. From that magical piggy bank in Oregon, where a single dollar could turn into hundreds, to Austin's high-tech putting challenge where precision pays serious money, all the way to the ultimate test where one perfect shot could hand you $30,000 cash. But here's what I want you to understand. These aren't just golf courses. They're proof that amazing experiences are waiting for you right now, today, in places you might never have considered visiting. They're evidence that ordinary people can have extraordinary moments, that skill and courage still matter, and that sometimes the best stories come from taking chances.
But we are just getting started. Next, we have every insane rule a Masters champion must follow for life.
Golf and tennis sell the silence as protection for player concentration. The truth is uglier. The rule book is older than the United States. It was first written in Aberdeen in 1783 by gentlemen who decided the crowd existed to serve the player, not the other way around. 3 weeks ago, the 1989 Open champion was escorted off Augusta National property for using his phone. The same property bans running, bans yelling, and refuses to even use the word fan. Picture the year 1783. The United States is 7 years old. King George III is on the throne. And in a damp Aberdeen clubhouse, men in waistcoats sit down and write the first golf rulebook that ever told a spectator to shut up. The actual wording survives. The 1783 Aberdeen rules state that while a stroke is being played, no one in the party is permitted to walk about, make any motion, or attempt to take off the player's attention. That's the founding document, Rule 1 of crowd silence. Every Augusta marshal raising a quiet please paddle in 2026 is enforcing a Scottish gentleman's club ledger from 243 years ago. When the USGA was founded in 1894, the first thing they did was copy these rules nearly word for word. The 1895 etiquette section, page 12, required absolute silence and stillness while another player was preparing to hit. Same rule, same century, same Aberdeen DNA. But here's the thing, there's exactly one word a golfer is allowed to scream on the course. Just one, and it's borrowed from artillery. 4. The USGA itself endorses the military origin. In the 1700s, British artillerymen about to fire cannonballs over the heads of their own advancing infantry would scream, "Beware before," so the soldiers would drop to the ground and not get decapitated by their own side. The phrase shortened. Golfers picked it up. The most polite sport on earth was built on a Scottish gentleman's club. The only word you're allowed to scream is borrowed from a battlefield, a 243-year-old rulebook. A war cry as the only permitted shout, and the most spectacular violation of this entire system happened 3 weeks ago at Augusta National. The man who broke it had won an Open championship, April 7th, 2026. Tuesday of Masters Week. Mark Kalageckia is 65 years old. He won the 1989 Open Championship at Royal Troon, runner-up at the 1988 Masters, 4-time United States Ryder Cup player, golf royalty, and on Tuesday afternoon, Augusta security walks him off the property. His crime? He used his cell phone. You think that's harsh? You don't understand Augusta yet. The phone ban isn't a Masters Week rule. It's an everyday rule. Members can't use phones on the property, the other 51 weeks of the year either. Past champions, honored invitees, all subject to the same code. Patrons surrender all electronics at the gate. Cameras are allowed only during practice rounds, must be handheld, must not transmit data. Smart glasses are creating a gray area. Augusta hasn't decided on yet. The only phones on the property during tournament week are AT&T. Courtesy phones on the course. Free calls anywhere in the world. Just don't bring your own. Augusta National doesn't have fans. It has patrons. That word patron was decreed by co-founder Clifford Roberts at the very first Masters in 1934. Roberts believed spectators were not ticket buyers. They were consumers of an experience. So at Augusta, fans are patrons. Rough is the second cut. Sand traps are bunkers. The driving range is the tournament practice area. And patrons do not run. Period. Try to sprint to a viewing spot and security stops you. How strict? Keegan Bradley once told a story about his sister bringing a phone onto the property by accident. They were going to eject her, she cried. They let her put the phone in a safe and stay. Don't cry, you're banned. In 2011, a credentialed journalist stepped outside the media center to take one phone call, banned for the day. There are documented patrons hit with lifetime bans for posting a single Augusta photo to social media. You're 65 years old, you won the Open, and on a Tuesday in April, security walks you off the property for pulling out your phone. That happened 3 weeks ago to Mark Calcavecchia. Believe it or not, tennis goes one step further. In tennis, your phone ringing in the crowd doesn't get you ejected. It costs your favorite player the point. You're at the US Open. Your phone is in your pocket. Your favorite player is serving for the match. Your phone rings. Under USTA code rule number 36, your favorite player just lost the point. The actual wording is brutal. A ringing cell phone is a deliberate hindrance. If an opponent's cell phone rings during a point, the player may immediately stop and claim the point. It's called the hindrance rule. Coughing, shouting, sneezing, even moving in your seat at the wrong moment, all of it can be ruled a hindrance, and the player on the receiving end can claim the point. Tennis literally weaponizes the silence rule against the crowd. You might think this is theoretical. It's not. The most famous hindrance call in tennis history happened at the 2011 US Open final. Serena Williams, Sam Stosur. Second set, Williams blasts a forehand that looks like a winner and screams, "Come on," before Stosur even gets her racket on the ball. Chair umpire Ava Azdaraki rules deliberate hindrance. Point goes to Stosur. Williams loses her mind, calls Azdaraki a hater, tells her she's unattractive inside, refuses to shake her hand. Stosur wins 6-2, 6-3 and lifts her only career Grand Slam trophy, partly because Serena Williams was punished by her own sport's rule against noise. A $2,000 fine. The greatest player of her generation, fined for shouting "come on" at the wrong half second. Of course, sometimes the crowd doesn't just whisper too loudly. Sometimes the entire crowd loses its mind, like in Brookline, Massachusetts, on September 26, 1999. Please help us reach more golf fans by hitting the hype button. Done? Thanks. Let's continue. Sunday, September 26, 1999. The Country Club, Brookline, Massachusetts. Final round of the Ryder Cup. The Europeans had led 10-6 going into Sunday singles. They needed just 4 points from 12 matches to retain the cup. Easy math. Then the United States won the first 6 singles matches in a row. By mid-afternoon, the score is United States 14, Europe 12. One match left that matters. Justin Leonard versus Jose Maria Olazabal on the 17th green. Olazabal had been 4 up after 10 holes. He'd lost the lead. Leonard stands over a 45-foot putt for birdie. He makes it. What happens next is the moment American golf etiquette died. The entire United States team sprints onto the green. Every player, their wives, their caddies, the NBC cameramen. Captain Ben Crenshaw is somewhere in the middle of the mob. They hug Leonard, scream, jump. The celebration lasts almost a full minute. There's only one problem. Olazabal still has a 25-foot putt to halve the hole. The Americans had just trampled directly across his putting line. Order eventually gets restored. Olazabal walks up to a green that 50 Americans had just stomped across. He misses the putt. The United States wins 14.5 to 13.5. But that's just the headline. The patrons that week did things you wouldn't believe. Mark James, the European captain, reported a fan spat at his wife. Andrew Coulthard's caddy claimed a marshal hid his lost ball until the 5-minute search clock ran out, costing him a 1-stroke penalty. And Colin Montgomery's 70-year-old father, who had flown over from Scotland to watch his son play, walked off the course on Sunday because he could no longer bear listening to American patrons heckle his boy. Sam Torrance, the European vice-captain, called it the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life. And it's not sour grapes. Veteran broadcaster Alistair Cook called the day a date that will live in infamy. The London Standard ran the headline the next morning. United Slobs of America. Captain Ben Crenshaw apologized publicly. It didn't matter. Brookline didn't just break the silence rule for one afternoon. It permanently changed the Ryder Cup. Every European captain since 1999 has had to plan for hostile American crowds. Every American captain since 1999 has had to publicly remind their fans not to be Brookline. But Brookline is the rare moment when American golf etiquette failed. Tennis has its own version, and at Wimbledon, breaking the silence rule doesn't just get you criticized, it gets you ejected from the entire grounds. You're walking through the gates at Wimbledon, the All England Lawn Tennis and Croquet Club. SW19, London, founded 1877. Before you sit down, you've already agreed to a rulebook. The official Wimbledon Spectator Code states it directly. If you make too much noise, speak while a point is in play, or become a distraction, you can be ejected from the court and from the grounds. Not the section, not the row, the grounds. Make a noise during a point, and Wimbledon physically removes you from the entire 42-acre property. Just printed in fine print and never enforced? Wrong. 2022 men's final. Center court, Djokovic versus Kyrgios. A protester shouts, "Where is Peng Shuai?" referencing the Chinese tennis player who had disappeared from public view after accusing a Communist Party official of sexual assault. Within seconds, security removed him from center court. That's an internationally important political question. Ejected anyway. But here's where it gets absurd. Center court has a section called the Royal Box. 74 seats, reserved for royalty, prime ministers, and personal guests of the Wimbledon chairman. The dress code is strict. Jacket and tie for men, no hats during play, nothing casual. 2015 men's final. Djokovic versus Federer. Lewis Hamilton, three-time Formula One world champion, arrives at the Royal Box wearing a bright floral shirt and a hat. They turn him away. The most decorated active driver in Formula One, a man worth several $100 million, denied entry to center court for wearing a flowery shirt. Hamilton missed the match. Wimbledon has the strictest crowd rule in tennis. They eject billionaires for hats. They eject protesters for political speech. Now Wimbledon and Augusta are extreme, but in 2023, the most stunning crowd policing meltdown in modern sport happened on a much louder court at the US Open, late August 2023. Arthur Ashe Stadium, Flushing Meadows, New York, the largest tennis venue on earth, 23,771 seats. The first week alone draws over 500,000 fans. Labor Day weekend draws 200,000 by itself. The silence rule is collapsing in real time. Day 1, Alexander Zverev is mid-match against Jannik Sinner. A spectator in a crowded section starts shouting Nazi-era German phrases at him, including Deutschland über alles, reference to ongoing domestic abuse allegations against Zverev. Zverev stops the match, goes to the umpire. The man is ejected within minutes. Same week, quarterfinal, Novak Djokovic versus Taylor Fritz. A fan screams during a critical Djokovic point. Djokovic loses the point. Officials eject the fan. 2 points later, Djokovic loses the next one too, and now the other spectators turn on the ejected fan, screaming back at him as he's escorted out. But the most absurd ejection of the tournament had nothing to do with politics or screaming. 2 men were ejected from the seats at Arthur Ashe Stadium. Why? They were giving each other haircuts, mid-match, with clippers and scissors, in their stadium seats, in front of 23,000 people and a global TV audience. Read that again. Wimbledon ejects you for hats. The US Open ejects you for haircuts. The whole thing snowballed into a public debate. Frances Tiafoe wanted tennis crowds to be loud and rowdy like NBA games. Daniil Medvedev pushed back. If the rule one day is going to change, I'm not going to argue. For the moment, you cannot do it. The US Open and the WTA quietly held internal meetings about whether to relax the silence rule entirely. Tennis was wondering in real time if silence still works. Golf had answered that question 36 years earlier. At the loudest hole on earth, a par 3 in Arizona that breaks every rule in the Aberdeen Code. You're not at Augusta, you're not at Wimbledon, you're in the Arizona desert in February. TPC Scottsdale, the Waste Management Phoenix Open, a par 3, 165 yards. Hole number 16. Now look up. The hole is wrapped in a stadium, not bleachers. A full enclosed stadium. 17,000 to 20,000 fans, ringing every side of the green like a Roman amphitheater, drinks in every hand. The locals call it the Coliseum. Crowd noise on the 16th has been recorded at over 100 decibels. Old Trafford, the home stadium of Manchester United, maxes out at 95.9 decibels in normal Premier League play. The Phoenix 16th is louder than the loudest stadium in English football. It's louder than a chainsaw, and the PGA Tour has been sanctioning it for decades. Every other hole on the property follows the Aberdeen Code. Marshals raise paddles. Patrons whisper. Players concentrate. Then you walk to the 16th tee and a man with a beer in each hand screams your name in a voice that could melt sheet metal. What makes this hole legendary? The hole-in-one moments. 1997, a 21-year-old kid named Tiger Woods tees off on the 16th on Saturday. He aces it. The roar that came out of the Coliseum was reportedly heard miles away. Spectators threw cups, hats, sandwiches, anything they had. Tiger ran the length of the fairway high-fiving fans. Skip ahead 25 years. 2022, Friday afternoon, Sam Ryder steps to the tee. Ace is the 16th. The crowd loses its mind. Beer cups rain onto the green for 10 straight minutes. Volunteers are still picking up plastic when the next group walks up. Saturday afternoon, Carlos Ortiz steps to the same tee. Aces the same hole. Back-to-back days, back-to-back aces, back-to-back beer cup floods. This is the PGA Tour, the same governing body that ejects fans for shouting Baba Booey, hosts the loudest hole on planet Earth, contradicting its own rulebook for decades. The truth is, the silence rule was never universal, even within golf. Phoenix proved it. 20,000 people pay to scream at one hole every February. The audience for loud golf has existed for years. Saudi Arabia just figured out how to monetize it globally. But Phoenix is contained chaos. One hole, one day, one stadium. The real noise problem in modern golf comes from two American shouting traditions that ruined every other hole on the planet, and one of them traces back to a Howard Stern producer mispronouncing a cartoon donkey's name in 1990. Please subscribe to our channel and help us reach 10,000 subs by month's end. Done? Thanks a lot. Let's continue. 2011, the Chevron World Challenge. Tiger Woods is on the tee. A 25-year-old kid named Andrew Widmar is in the gallery. Widmar's mother had given him a mission: go do something. Get yourself on TV. Most people would scream their own name. Widmar wanted something dumber. He picked mashed potatoes. He picked it on purpose. Most golf shouts are too short or too generic to carry through a broadcast microphone. Mashed potatoes is polysyllabic, distinct, and absurd enough that the on-course mics would catch it cleanly. Tiger swings. Widmar screams mashed potatoes. The broadcast catches it perfectly. His mom sees him on TV. The clip goes viral, and every PGA Tour event for the next decade has at least one drunk guy in the gallery yelling mashed potatoes after every long drive. But here's the thing. Mashed potatoes is the new one. The older ghost is much weirder. 1990, Howard Stern Show. Executive producer Gary Dell'Abate is on air discussing the cartoon Quick Draw McGraw. He's trying to say Baba Louie, the name of the cartoon donkey. He mispronounces it, Baba Booey. Stern fans turned it into a 30-year prank. They yelled it on live news broadcasts in the 1990s. They turned it into a prank call tradition that crashed live coverage of national stories. They yelled it at Augusta, at Wimbledon, at every PGA Tour event with cameras running. Howard Stern said on air, "Wouldn't that be our legacy? 50 years from now, when we're dead, when you're watching golf and suddenly you hear the announcer say, 'Stern got his wish.'" August 23, 2013, Liberty National Golf Club, Jersey City, the Barclays. Ian Poulter is over a putt. Mid-backswing, a fan in the gallery screams Baba Booey. PGA Tour officials eject the man on the spot. Poulter's tweet that night was direct. The good news of today was only one donut shouted out Baba Booey, and he was swiftly removed from the premises. The PGA Tour drew the line in 2013. Ty Votah, Tour Executive Vice President of Communications, said it directly. Shouting after impact is irksome but not disruptive. Yelling during the swing? Ejected. A Howard Stern radio prank from 1990 forced the most decorum-obsessed sport in America to write a new ejection policy. It's still happening in 2026. These rebellions, the Coliseum, the mashed potatoes guys, the Baba Booey crowd, they're loud. They're new. They get the headlines. But there's another tradition in golf. Much quieter, much older, and it has held the line for centuries. The most polite applause in any sport. It's dying right now. Watch any golf tournament closely. After a great putt drops, watch what the gallery does. They don't roar like a basketball crowd. They don't whistle. They don't stand. They don't chant. They clap, but not the way you clap at a basketball game. Cupped hands, held low to the chest, almost in front of the body. Sound dampened. It's called the golf clap. There's no single inventor. It emerged in the 20th century as a quiet compromise. How do you applaud a great shot without violating the Aberdeen rule from 1783? How do you celebrate a player without distracting the next one? The answer was a clap engineered to be barely heard. Etiquette manuals codified it. The mid-century TV broadcast era reinforced it. CBS, NBC, the BBC, every network covering golf in the 1950s and 1960s wanted minimal crowd noise. Commentators needed clean audio. Producers wanted players' breathing to be audible. So the polite golf clap got promoted as the right way to applaud. The result is the most uniquely civilized form of cheering in any sport. Tennis has its parallel. Applause only at changeovers. Applause only after rallies. Never during a serve. The Wimbledon Spectator Code states it directly. Save your applause for changeovers or after a particularly impressive rally. Both these traditions are dying in real time. Watch any modern Ryder Cup highlight. The galleries scream during backswings. They chant USA while a European is over a putt. They sing during the singles. The polite golf clap is being replaced by the football clap. And that's the friendly version. Watch any modern US Open or Australian Open highlight. The crowds boo. They cheer winners on a player's own missed serve. They scream during a player's ball toss. The applause only at changeovers rule survives in the rulebook. It's been ignored on center court for at least a decade. The golf clap is design, a 243-year-old applause technique engineered to celebrate without disturbing, the most polite sound in sports. That brings us to the final item on this list. It might seem like the loudest of them all, the biggest, the most obvious rebellion against the silence rule. But the real story isn't how loud it gets. It's what's being lost. February 14th, 2026, Saturday afternoon, the Grange Golf Club, Adelaide, Australia. 38,500 fans walk through the gates in a single day, the largest single-day crowd in the history of LIV Golf. Total attendance over the 4-day event, 115,000 people. LIV Adelaide has now drawn six-figure crowds 3 years running, each year bigger than the last. The 12th hole at the Grange is a par 3, 165 yards, the exact same length as Phoenix's Coliseum. It even has its own nickname, the Watering Hole. The 12th has its own DJ booth, its own bar, its own stadium, its own pop-up Friday night concert. Headlined this year by Dom Dalla. When Patrick Reed aced the 12th in 2025, the same thing happened that happens at Phoenix. Beer cups in the air, crowd losing its mind, the 10-minute roar. Greg Norman built LIV as a deliberate insult to the Aberdeen Code. The slogan is printed on every banner, golf but louder. Music plays through speakers across the entire course while play is happening. Imagine Dragons, Good Charlotte, Jason Derulo, concerts after every round. Cameron Smith, the 2022 Open champion who left the PGA Tour for LIV, said it best. It feels like the course has a heartbeat. The TV ratings are catastrophic. PGA Tour final rounds in 2025 averaged 3.1 million American viewers on Sundays. LIV final rounds, the same Sundays, averaged 175,000. The PGA Tour outdrew LIV by an average of 17-1, the contradiction nobody resolves. The loudest, most attended golf event of 2026 is in Australia, and almost nobody is watching it on television. The quietest, most decorum-obsessed event of 2026 was 3 weeks ago at Augusta National, where Mark Calcavecchia got escorted off the property for using a phone, and millions of Americans watched the Sunday final round. Both happened in 2026. Both are golf. They cannot both win. The Aberdeen Code from 1783 still exists. Wimbledon still ejects you for a hat. Tennis still gives you a point if a phone rings in the crowd. Augusta still bans phones, bans running, bans the word fan. The golf clap still exists, but the audience for silence is shrinking, and the audience for golf but louder is in Adelaide throwing beer cups onto a green at 38,500 a day. In 20 years, the question won't be why crowds must stay silent at tennis and golf. It'll be why they ever did. A 243-year-old rulebook from a damp Aberdeen clubhouse, written by men in waistcoats who decided the crowd existed to serve the player, is fighting its last fight in real time. Let us know what you think in the comments, and YouTube think you would like to watch this video. Let's see if it's true.